From Harry Hurley Way and the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
It is 7 minutes past the hour. We begin with President Biden. A couple things going on that I want to fill you in on. Wednesdays are almost like you remember. Who's the writer? Very talented writer, Mitch Albom. Weekend or Wednesdays with Maury. This is Wednesdays with Biden. What they think they are is they think they're cute. They're putting Biden out there, making it look like he has a really active campaign schedule. But what they're doing, they're faking on Wednesdays to try to generate Biden news to take away from President Trump on the only day of the business week that Trump is unencumbered. Other than that, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, they have him locked down in this New York trial. This will go down, and it cannot be allowed to work. This will go down as the most despicable campaign tactic in American history. It is filthy. Now, here's another Joe Biden indefensible moment. They lied because word came out that they were delaying shipments of weapons for Israel. And they lied and said it's not true. Well, the day after Biden's Holocaust speech, Biden, I'm sure they didn't want him to do it, but he gave himself up. And he said they are, and that they have held up shipments. Understand something. When the terrorist enemy hit us, no one in the world was going to tell us that we were not going to do what we were going to do to respond to what happened to us. Hamas cut babies' heads off, raped women to death, cut the limbs off of children, and then while they were alive, they killed them after that. Tortured, maimed, destroyed. And it sickens me, this anti-Semitism. This Joe Biden that's begging for the Michigan and Wisconsin pro-Hamas vote. That's what's going on. This is disgusting. It's unprecedented. So here's the deal. Biden's pro-Hamas. You just got to say it for what it is. Hamas is in Rafah. That's where the Hamas battalions are. So, of course, Israel has to go in there. And Biden's telling them they can't. They're not going to listen. But that's the story, and it's unprecedented. A famous Israeli leader, and I can't remember which one, wrote on social media, Hamas loves Biden, and they do. Iran, Russia, Taliban, Hamas, North Korea, they all love Biden because he's weak. They have loved the past 3.5 years. Here's the good news, though. Biden's getting thrown out. No matter what they try to do. And I'll tell you, it's not getting much coverage, but my oh my, has Trump had a couple of really big days with the Jack Smith. The Jack Smith case may never even happen, but it's not going to happen. All I've ever wanted is for none of this, even including Fat Bragg. I never wanted any of this to happen prior to November 5th because it is lawfare. It is election tampering, election interference. Have the election, and then I don't really care because I know what's going to happen. That's all going to work out. And then it doesn't matter how long it takes after the election. But if you get a conviction of President Trump in the next 3 or 4 weeks in New York, and then the Biden criminals and the Democrat criminal media can avalanche Trump with the Republicans, best they could do, they have a convicted felon as the nominee. They will, and I don't think it's going to work even if they get it. And this, of course, this trial, and don't even get me started on Juan Merchan. This guy is a absolute disgrace to all lawyers and judges ever born. He is a national disgrace, a national embarrassment. But away he goes. And I'll tell you, I understand that because it's backfiring so bad. Stormy Daniels, they thought they were having a great day, but it hasn't gone well at all. And the defense now is going to extend their cross-examination of Stormy Daniels. You know that Biden will not be supplying these weapons to Israel and hasn't. I mean, he's costing lives every day. I heard somebody say yesterday, I think it was Mike Johnson, speaker, that even if only 1 out of every 100 of the illegals vote, that can decide the election. And he's absolutely right. And remember, they are voting in some states. They'll tell you it's only at the local level. Don't tell me. You want them in here because you want them to vote. That's why you create your voting laws in these corrupt states that do it this way, that you get a driver's license, you're automatically registered. Well, wouldn't you think they would do something about the illegals? No, they don't. They register them to vote. But don't worry, they have to do what's called self-report. They can't vote. Sure, they're not going to vote. Then you say that's happening, and then they call you a liar. This is not getting a lot of coverage. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, and maybe I'm just ahead of it. But Hunter Biden is trying to pull a stunt, game the system. He's trying to delay his trial. He did a fake motion to dismiss his charges last month. It was denied. Of course it was denied because his charges are unambiguous. 9 tax charges, a bunch of misdemeanors, 3 felonies, failure to pay, allegedly, taxes, evasion of assessment, false and fraudulent tax returns alleged. I mean, it's all unambiguous stuff, and, of course, the gun charges. So here was one of the quotes I heard. Quote, "The motion is remarkable in that it fails to include a single declaration exhibit or request for judicial notice. There's an 82-page ruling denying his appeal. All the defendant is doing is trying to delay and I presume get past November 5th. I don't know if he will or he won't be able to succeed. A trial date on his charges was set for June 20 in Los Angeles. Hunter also faces a June 3rd trial date in Delaware on 3 federal gun charges. So we'll see if Hunter Biden winds up in a courtroom prior to November 5th. I'm leaning towards I think he will, but we'll see. Marjorie Taylor Greene, she really is all over the place. She said that she wasn't going to do this for now. President Trump spoke with her. She wasn't going to do this. Well, she tried. She tried to get Speaker Johnson out, and it failed. And it failed abysmally. And I just don't see 6 months before an election how that has any bearing. All right, I told you that I try to make it a goal to share with you new polling data every single day of the week. And I can achieve that goal again when we come back. It's 17 minutes past the hour. I thank you for waking up early in the morning. Wide open forum coming up in about 45 minutes. I hope you'll do what you always do, and that's crush the phone lines. I can't believe it's Thursday already. John Zarek at 8. And then we have Deborah Heart and Lung Center, happy to report 2 weeks in a row, because last week was a makeup for what I missed when I got hit and I was out for 1 week with the COVID-19. So we have an interventional cardiologist, Dr. Raza, who's going to be coming by. Very important topic. We're going to be talking about understanding AFib, which is atrial fibrillation. Leave that to your trained broadcasting specialist. Understanding AFib and stroke. That's coming up later today on the Hurley in the Morning program.
The WPG Talk Radio app is everything South Jersey on your phone and in your car through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Local news, weather, and information updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Easy access to WPG podcasts and more. Powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com.
Fox News commentary.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters floats the insane conspiracy theory that Trump supporters are training in the hills in preparation for the election. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
Hey, it's Jesse Kelly. Are you still on the fence about owning gold? It's time to pull the trigger with the Oxford Gold Group and buy gold and silver. Nobody can predict the future, but we can't put our head in the sand either. The Oxford Gold Group are the pros. They make owning gold and silver simple and easy to understand. Call Oxford Gold Group right now and you may qualify for up to $10,000 in free precious metals. Call 833-995-GOLD. That's 833-995-GOLD.
Congresswoman Maxine Waters is known for saying wild and outlandish things, but in a recent appearance on MSNBC, she outdid herself. In a bizarre rant, Waters floated the idea that Trump supporters and right-wing organizations are training up in the hills somewhere and preparing to attack certain communities after the 2024 election results come in. Not only is this bogus and completely unsubstantiated, it's also quite rich coming from a Democrat. If Congresswoman Maxine Waters is worried about militant training on U.S. soil, she should look no further than the anti-Israel and pro-Hamas protesters who are still in the process of taking over college campuses. Furthermore, it was Maxine Waters who once said that Trump supporters should be confronted and run out of town. So I don't want to hear a dang word out of her mouth about political violence or intimidation. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
You're listening to Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Egg Harbor Township. I'm from Margate.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG.
Brigantine. Cape May. Galloway.
Hurley in the Morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Let's see where to begin. Hold on just a quick moment. Let's start with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That one's near and dear to me because my wake-up time... I have to do something very important first. Hold right there. Dateline, Pennsylvania, when we come back. I want to take this opportunity. Yesterday I told you about Congress Hall, the oldest seaside resort in America, part of Curtis Bashaw's Cape Resorts property. Incidentally, have you seen Curtis's commercials on the Fox News channel regarding his campaign for the United States Senate? Really, I mean, national caliber, really good. So anyhow, the Virginia Hotel, the reason I thought of that was the beautiful, he's out in front of Congress Hall in the commercial and the beautiful flags just draped in the back. Just, I mean, so presidential looking, really very, very good. So the Virginia Hotel, just a little just whisper away from Congress Hall on Jackson Street. The standard for boutique luxury in Cape May, New Jersey, an impeccably restored 1879 landmark building with 4 wonderful, they call them cottages, but these are beachfront homes. We've stayed in all of them, I think, except one. They're fantastic. Virginia Hotel combines history with modern-day amenities, superior service, and great dining with the Ebbett Room. It really is fantastic. The Ebbett Room, one of the finest restaurants in America, is right inside of the Virginia Hotel. And all of this is just 1 block from the beach. Beautiful design, unrivaled comfort, friendly attentive service, the perfect springtime choice for a midweek escape. Book your stay at caperesorts.com/Virginia. The Virginia Hotel and Cottages, boutique elegance since 1879, Congress Hall since 1816. Wow. All right, Dateline, Pennsylvania. President Trump leads Joe Biden by 4 points. President Trump is at 49% support. Joe Biden is at 45%. Here's the great news. If you're looking at voters older than 50, and that always used to go to the Democrat, not anymore. President Trump's lead grows to 52%. Biden's drops to 42%. 10-point lead. Here's another good situation. They're tied between 18 to 49. That always went to the Democrat. And here's even better news. When you add the Green Party and the Libertarian Party candidates, President Trump leads Biden not by 4 points, but by 6 points. So it's good stuff. Trump is at like 47, Biden's at 41, Jill Stein is at 5% in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Here's another good one. Trump leads in every one of these. Tie in Arizona. Trump leads. Oh, no, wait. I take that back. Trump leads in Arizona. He leads in Arizona, in Georgia, in Michigan, in Nevada, in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin. I feel like Howard Dean. Rah! I mean, I can't believe it. So Trump leads by 4 in Arizona, 48-44. Trump leads by 5 in North Carolina. These are all states won by Biden in 2020, 47-42. If this holds, it is going to be an electoral landslide for Trump. Trump leads 47-44 in Georgia. He leads, as I mentioned, by 5 and 6 in Pennsylvania. He leads in Wisconsin, which is great. These are some of these you don't even expect, and Trump doesn't even need them. Trump also leads in Michigan and Nevada. When you add all the polls that have been taken in the recent week or two, Trump is at 47, Biden is at 44 point. And let's see, the poll in Pennsylvania was at least registered voters. The way they worded it, it says the poll was conducted April 24 through 30, surveyed 1,398 Pennsylvania voters. So there you have it. Now, when we come back, yes, I have more polling news to share with you, and a bunch more after that. Let's make it count as the Hurley in the Morning program continues 29 minutes past the hour. We're taking your phone calls in the 7 o'clock hour, so we'll go to phone calls in a little over a half hour from now at 609-407-1450. I hope you'll call me then because there's a lot to talk about, and we really do cherish. I mean, other than Tuesday mornings with Kirk, then we usually have the open forum in the 8 or the 9 o'clock hour. The 7 o'clock hour every other morning is you. And it's very important. It's one of the most important things that we do as a program. 609-407-1450 when we go to your calls in just a little bit.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Yes, it is. It's 30 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley, 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Board of Education special meeting tonight. And stay close because I will publish digitally as soon as there's something for you to know. A tow truck driver has really traumatically injured an Egg Harbor Township teenager. We have the story, and Holy Spirit High School, great school, wonderful school. We know it well. They will have a new principal. You can read about that.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Today will be almost 20 degrees cooler than yesterday, and we have to add rain chances back to the forecast over the next 36 hours, too. Peaks of sun this morning, then clouds roll in. A few showers and thunderstorms likely from midday into the afternoon, high 71. Tonight, a period of rain, low 52. Tomorrow stays showery and drizzly all day, miserably cool with a high of only 54. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Enable our skill and tell your smart speaker, play WPG.
Billy.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
We need to just listen to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Well, then let me give you some more right here, right now. And you know I'm a big fan of Rasmussen polling. Scott became a good friend. We've had the opportunity to get to know each other very well. Met his wife, met his son, just a good guy. Now, he's not as involved as he used to be, but they have stayed with the program, with the methodology. And the thing that I've always admired when I fired Zogby as my official pollster and named Scott Rasmussen the official pollster for the Hurley in the Morning program, it was because he actually surveys likely voters. I am gobsmacked at how in the world would anyone want to poll unlikely voters and then the media covers that like it's news. When did that become okay to take something that's very unlikely and make it news without even explaining how unlikely it is? And that's what most of these outfits are doing. They're purposely polling unlikely voters because they don't like what would happen if they polled likely voters. Trump would be leading, and a lot of the other issues of the day would favor us and not the radical Democrats. So here's the story, and I love this. I haven't seen anyone ever poll this before. It'll give you a little window, a little insight into what do Americans actually think about the United States Constitution. Because when you hear the hard left, all you're left to believe is that it's antiquated. It was created by racist slave owners with powdered wigs, white men. I mean, you might think these are like the most horrible people that ever lived. And yet they put something together that's the most profound thing in the history of the world. So here's how the American people in the Rasmussen poll, which, by the way, was 1,092 likely voters. And they did this survey just within, they're always doing, every day they're doing surveying, and they do a 3-day rolling average, it's called. This is a separate and apart from that, though. And this data is very, very recent. It's just a few days ago that this polling sampling was taken. So on the Constitution, on the question of do you hold a very favorable view of the Constitution, 62% said yes. That's very encouraging. I want to say it's low, But you just have to keep doing what I did, and that's read the tabulars. On the comment of somewhat favorable, 26%. So if you add that, that's 88% hold a favorable view of the Constitution. It's pretty encouraging, actually. You wouldn't think that based on the Democrat media. 8% said that they have a somewhat unfavorable view of the Constitution. 1% said they had a very unfavorable, and that would be, the pro-Hamas wing of the party, the Squad and that whole gang, the I Hate America crowd. And 3% of idiots aren't sure. If you don't have an opinion of the Constitution, get the hell out. When asked about, and this is what I also find so uplifting to me, because the Democrat storyline in the media is that Trump is a threat to our democracy, and Biden is the one that will uphold the Constitution, the oath of office, all of this. Well, guess what? Only 28%, and you know who they are, the sickos, the psychos. 28% give Biden an excellent mark for upholding his oath of office. 16% said he's good at upholding his oath of office. 12% said fair. 43% said poor, and 2% said they're not sure. This is the beautiful epilogue. President Trump defeats Biden in terms of who did a better job. See, these are the questions I love, because we have this rarity of having the past two presidents to compare. Not just a candidate that says what they would do if they got in, and you don't know. I mean, think about Biden and Obama when they got in. Biden as VP, Obama as president. They said all kinds of stuff. Obama said that marriage was only between a man and a woman. Boom. They get in. They flip that script real quick. And in other areas as well. So I'm a big fan of don't believe what they say. See what they actually do. And we now have that with Biden and with Trump. 40% said Biden did a better job upholding his oath of office. 47% said Trump did a better job. Trump beats Biden like a drum right now, no matter what it is, except for abortion and health care. And health care is quasi-close. That's not in this poll. That's in one that we looked at yesterday and talked to you about for a little bit. Let me get the break in, but when we come back, I'm going to pose the question. Again, I know it's cognitive dissonance. I know we can explain it, but it's still very hard for me to process. Why would car manufacturers be ending the production of vehicles that people actually want and shift to EVs that people don't want? That blows my mind. I know that's what Joe Biden wants, but that's not what the American people want. I mean, for example, if I had a hamburger joint and people really loved hamburgers, and all of a sudden I said, we're no longer, yes, we are Harry's Hamburgers. Harry's Hamburgers and hot dogs. But we will no longer have the hamburgers and hot dogs that you like. We'll have plant-based, awful. We'll have veggie burgers. We'll have, and look, I'm not putting them down. If you like that kind of thing, go for it. But when you have something that people want, why would you discontinue that in favor of what people don't want? And that is really crazy. Much more when we come back. Your calls coming up in a little bit at 609-407-1450. It is the Hurley in the Morning program.
Hurley in the Morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person on the radio who isn't afraid to speak the truth about what's really happening in Atlantic City.
WPG Talk Radio.
True
95.5. Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
I'm looking for trustworthy news.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's exactly 45 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program. All right, so this is what I was basically saying right before the timeout. GM is ending production of the Chevy Malibu. Now, they have, I don't think I told you that specifically before the break, but that's what they're doing. They have sold more than 10 million Malibus since 1964 worldwide. Now, I just know this is true. More people would want their Malibu than their, what is it called? I try to commit all these things to memory. You've got Toyota has the Prius. Chevy has the Bolt. So that's their EV. I think they actually halted a prior generation of the Bolt. But I digress. That just comes to my mind. So do away with what people want and then give them what they don't want. Like I said, instead of the hamburger, some plant-based thing, some meatless type deal. And I think they're also pausing production of some Cadillac cars as well that I'm sure people would want more than the EVs. The Malibu was up 13% in sales in the last full year. I mean, come on. I just don't understand. I'm not picking on just GM. This woke crap is just, they're ruining everything. I looked at Anheuser-Busch's numbers. Their retail sales have fallen 13.7% in the first quarter. They blew themselves up. I mean, they have a long-standing, long-lasting, flat-out boycott since they heavily promoted transgender, what do they call on social media themselves, influencers. Dylan Mulvaney. How's that going for them? Not very well. For reasons I don't know, I actually think that Anheuser-Busch shares rose more than 5% yesterday, but their revenue is down. Their sales are down 13.7% in Q1, so whatever that means. I saw something that President Trump wrote, and I really just agree with it completely. This Judge Merchan with the gag order and letting Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and anybody else that wants to trash Trump is allowed to do so, but the gag order is just on him. The same thing that the corrupt people did to Roger Stone and to others. Trump wrote on Truth Social, quote, "It is hard to sit back and listen to lies and false statements be made against you, knowing that if you respond, even in the most modest fashion, you are told by a corrupt and highly conflicted judge that you will be put in prison, maybe for a long period of time." He further said, quote, "It is really bad feeling to have your constitutional right to free speech, such a big part of life in our country, so unfairly taken from you, especially when all of the sleazebags," I love this, "all of the sleazebags, lowlifes, and grifters that you oppose are allowed to say absolutely anything that they want." quote unquote. Would you just humor me for a moment? I love that description so much. It's a little salty. It's not really salty, but it's colorful. It's raw. I want to read that one more time. That's why I'm asking for you to humor me. It is really, quote, bad. Feeling to have your constitutional right to free speech, such a big part of life in our country, so unfairly taken from you, especially when all of the sleazebags, lowlifes, and grifters that you oppose are allowed to say absolutely anything that they want. Mershon said on Monday that he will hold Trump in contempt of court for a 10th time. He did 9 were all at one time, and then there was this one more time, making 10, for violating the gag order, and said he would consider putting Trump in jail if there were further violations. I don't want Trump to go to jail because he doesn't deserve that. And these Democrats that are orgasmic over saying, oh, is he going to go to Rikers? Whoopi Goldberg? Can they open Alcatraz just for him? I mean, these are sick people. They're really sick. Very, very deranged. Quote, unquote, Trump said, quote, fascist mindset is all coming from D.C. when it comes to his trial in New York. Quote, it is a sophisticated hit job. Crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, me, said Trump. Quote, Judges Engoron and Kaplan, also of New York, are equally corrupt, only in different ways. What these thugs are doing is an attack on the Republican Party and our once great nation itself. Our First Amendment must stand, free and strong. Give me liberty or give me death. Quote, end quote. And let me make a prediction about something that, because they've already attacked Barron Trump while he's a child. Well, Barron Trump is now 18 years old. Yes, in case you didn't know, he turned 18 back in March. So now he's majority age, and President Trump's youngest son, Barron Trump, has been chosen to serve as a Florida delegate to the Republican National Convention. This Florida Republican state chairman confirmed this yesterday. So that's Evan Power, by the way. So what's going to happen is the 18-year-old son of President Trump and former and future First Lady Melania Trump, everything I just said is true, past and future. Barron will serve as one of the 41 at-large delegates from Florida at the national gathering. And that's very cool. So he will be there. Maybe they'll even let him speak and give Florida's delegates to President Trump. Maybe they would even let him put President Trump over the top. I would come up with something very cool. And I was thinking about this yesterday because, I don't just mail this in. I've done the show prep. More than an hour for every hour that we're on the air. And what I was thinking about when I knew that I was going to bring this topic up in this hour was that I don't know what Barron Trump sounds like. I know he's gigantic. I think he's like, it's possible I might be like having hallucinations, but he might be like 6'9" or something. He's very tall, very, very tall, 6'7" at least. I'll check it during the break, but I don't know what he sounds like. So wouldn't that be cool? They go to Florida, and then for the first time ever, you hear Barron Trump's voice when he gives the delegates. I hope that's what they do. Harry Hurley Life Coach is, available to make that happen. I mean, that would just be silly not to do what I just said. Congressman Jordan and Congressman Comer have referred Michael Cohen to the Department of Justice. Now, we understand that the leadership at the highest level of the Department of Justice is corrupt as hell. So don't expect anything to happen, but I'm glad they did it. They sent him, referred him to the Department of Justice on the grounds of perjury and knowingly making false statements to Congress. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio, Congressman James Comer of Kentucky sent a referral to United States Attorney General Merrick Garland. I realize you're laughing hysterically because that has zero chance of mattering, but it's good they're doing it. It's also good that I've been saying it for a long time. In the run-up to the election, even though the Senate will stop it and the president wouldn't sign it anyhow because they're anti-American and they're not for things that are proper, they all they want is power, and they want it in the worst way, not in the best way. That's always a bad thing. I love this piece of legislation that the House is taking up. You have to prove that you're a United States citizen in order to vote, because these Democrats have illegals registered to vote. Let them vote against that and keep putting stuff up like that. And then you tell the American people, this is what we'll do, and this is what they keep blocking. They just voted against this. So that's just a quick little sidebar, but I want to get back to this referral of Cohen. Comer and Jordan sent the letter to Merrick Garland, I know, seeking answers as to why the DOJ has not acted on their committee's previous requests to have Cohen investigated. Cohen is described in the letter as being a key witness in the case against President Trump currently underway in Manhattan. The congressmen note in their letter that, quote, Cohen's testimony is now the basis for a politically motivated prosecution of a former president and current declared candidate for that office. In light of the reliance on the testimony from this repeated liar, we reiterate our concerns and ask what the Justice Department has done to hold Cohen accountable for his false statements to Congress. See, you understand, they have Navarro in jail. They want Manafort in jail. They wanted Stone in jail. Here you have a serial perjurer, congenital liar, proven liar, convicted liar, and they don't do anything about it. Cohen has been accused of knowingly making false statements on 6 separate occasions, including his denial of fraudulent acts to which he had previously pled guilty. So how do you deny what you've already pled guilty to? Testifying he did not seek employment in former President Trump's White House. My understanding is that he was all out in a fetal position crying mommy when Trump did not take him in his administration. And I'm sure he didn't take him because he knew what kind of individual this is. Further, that stating that he did not direct the creation of a Twitter account known as Women for Cohen, and stating in his testimony for Truth Forum that he did not have any reportable foreign government contracts. The referral notes that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's, quote, case heavily relies on Cohen's testimony and credibility. The letter also notes how Cohen advisor Lanny Davis, a former special counsel to former President Bill Clinton, told Politico that Bragg's case against Trump was built on Cohen's 2019 congressional testimony. Although he is yet to testify against his former boss, legal critics have noted Cohen's social media presence has not been beneficial to the prosecution. Cohen has mocked Trump with profane nicknames and posted memes showing Trump in a prison outfit. Quote, he's a real headache, said Lance Fletcher, a former Manhattan prosecutor. Quote, he's doing everything as a prosecutor you don't want your witness to do. He's got all sorts of credibility problems. Yes, he does. All right, when we come back, it's your calls for the full hour at 609-407-1450. You will be the first caller as soon as we come back, so hang in there, and then you can be next. Call us now, 609-407-1450. It's Hurley in the Morning.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. 6 minutes past the hour, 609-407-1450. Can you believe we have to dial 609? I guess we've all sort of gotten used to that, but for so long you didn't have an area code to worry about unless you were outside of the area. 609-407-1450. You do have to dial it. It won't go through otherwise. Remember when all my saved numbers that didn't have the area code, I had to go in and put 609 in every single one because actually numbers, I forget what year that was, but they no longer would dial. It just wasn't enough information to make the call. 609-407-1450. Hope you'll check in. Welcome to the program. You're on the air. Caller, are you there? Hello? Wow. You've been there a long time. Bye-bye. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning. I wanted to bring up the Haudenosaunee. That's the people of the Longhouse. I looked up the site yet again, and their constitution is the sister document of our constitution. That was translated onto wampum belts by Diganawida, and some say it was during he had a remote viewing of the future, sitting under a white pine as a co-host fall in upstate New York, either on the June 28th, 1451 eclipse or the August 22nd, 1142 eclipse. It doesn't matter because he's a copper-colored man. That means he had brown skin with red hue, and then he saw white people and black people here before they came. But when I looked at that site, it kind of didn't give me correct information. It gave me scattered information. Like Diganawida, we're not sure if he was a Huron or Onondaga. Well, the Onondaga are one of the 6 tribes of the Iroquois. Actually, his mother was Huron, and even as a young kid, he was strange. So she thought that his strangeness would be blamed on him being half Huron, so she tried to drown him 3 times. And when she couldn't, she said, "Let Great Spirit's hands upon this kid. He's different from the rest." But that tribe ended up being wiped out by the Iroquois anyway. The Iroquois became very, very violent, and that violence turned in on themselves. So it doesn't give a lot of detail about how the white and black people came from the sea, which is correct. That's how they came. They came from over on boats and that. But there's this talk about white supremacy, the National Socialism. That's been going on for some time, and now there's black supremacy. I'm going to tell you what. I don't care what kind of supremacy you espouse, whatever doctrine you espouse to, that's supremacist nature. That Constitution of ours is what works, and it was Lakota Oglala Sioux Native American Indian Russell Means, who loved our Constitution, and he was no Uncle Tom either. He was a co-founder with Leonard Peltier of the AIM, American Indian Movement, very radical. But he loved the Constitution because it's a sister document to the Native American Indian Constitution, the Guyanasco, the Great Law of Peace. Anyway, that Constitution, the Achilles heel of the Constitution is it's a volitional document where socialism is forced down from the top. And even George Orwell, who was a naive socialist, he wouldn't have written that book 1984 if that wasn't so. So socialism is not going to work here in America. It doesn't work anywhere else. By volition, it never works. It always has to be worked from a totalitarian hands down on top of people.
But even then it doesn't work.
No. Yeah, the whole thing is that China, the reason why it works in China is because of Confucianism. And there's 5 principles of Confucianism, and one of them is an uber veneration for authority. But the other one's like benevolence and respect for people's rights, and that the Chinese just the Chinese believe in the Communist Manifesto of whatever the means are. What's that saying? It's the ends
the ends justify the means.
Yeah, that's correct. So anyway, that's this idea that we're going to come up with something better. Now we have a perfect document that's next to the Holy Bible, according to John Coleman. So that if people are going to be out this information and rewriting history, we might as well give what the real history of this country is.
Well, think about this though. Why I wanted to share the Rasmussen polling on the Constitution. 88% of the American people in the year 2024 support the Constitution. Now, that might sound like, oh, my God, that's a low bar. I mean, how can you not support it? It's, incredible, what it's been able to endure for 250 years. But that's still encouraging, though, that with all of the socialism being jammed down our throats, all of the lies, all of the Democrats' spin, that still 88% of the people support it. I'm encouraged by that, Flash.
Absolutely. If we were to adhere to the Bill of Rights, these politicians have to pack their bags and leave. Thanks.
Thank you. That's why he's Flash. You see how fast he gets out? He does his thing, and he leaves quicker than anybody you've ever seen. So hence I've nicknamed him long ago the Flash. I believe it has stuck because I've had people actually say, hey, I heard the Flash. So I like that. In between your calls, I'm going to hit you with item after item after item. Jump in, 609-407-1450. 2 days ago, I broke the news. This was particularly gratifying because there should have been another media entity that should have beaten me to this breaking news story, but they didn't, and they never do. Hence the jealousy factor. So we broke the news 2 days ago that a special meeting of the Atlantic City Board of Education will take place, and now it's here. It's tonight at 6 p.m. If you hear that anywhere, they glommed it, they copied it, they ripped it off from us. Now, here's the interesting thing. It is to discuss, quote, personnel matters. Further, it said action will be taken. It didn't say action may be taken. Action will be taken. Now, the district has remained tight-lipped with regards to who they will be speaking about at this special meeting. Let me just let you in on, I can spoil their secret. They're going to be talking about Laquetta Small. They've hired yet another attorney that's going to work with them on this. And let me tell you, you don't even need an attorney. It's not complicated. When you are charged with criminal child abuse, criminal charges, you can't stay in your position. Yes, we are a beautiful nation with the presumption of innocence, and that's not taken away. It is just when you are in a sensitive position involving children and the allegations are child abuse, like knockout game violence allegations, you can't stay as an active employee in your position until the charges are resolved. If they're resolved favorably, you win. If you're convicted, you lose. Now, I know how this is going to go. If they do it, they're going to pay this person. It's sort of like a contract. Smalls get paid. What can I tell you? By the public, tax dollars. I'm not sure that this is a fact, but my own knowledge, as far as I can go back, I don't believe that any one of these two. Now, maybe they had like a job as a child or something that I don't know about, but I believe since adulthood, both of them have. Look, I honor public service, so this is not a slam. That's very honorable work. There are dishonorable people that spend a whole career not working, getting over on the taxpayers. Even when they're on, they're really not. And it's a beautiful thing, right? Except it's not. It's filthy. So I honor the hardworking employees in terms of public employment. But these two Smalls, their entire adult lifetime that I know, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I will correct the record. I don't know as much about Laquetta as I do about Marty, but I don't think Marty Small has ever had a job that I'm aware of. Again, I'm not counting kid jobs that was not taxpayer paid. He did work for the Charter Academy for a period of time, so that is a private school. So I guess you could say, literally, you could say that isn't a taxpayer job. But then, bam, right back in at the public dole. So conventional wisdom points to that Laquetta Small, who shouldn't even be the Atlantic City Superintendent of Public Schools, is who will be talked about tonight. Laquetta Small has been charged with serious child abuse criminal offenses. So has Marty Small, and so has Atlantic City High School principal Constance Days Chapman by the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office. And a board member just referred to me that the Charter Academy receives taxpayer dollars, which I did know, but I didn't think of it at the time. You know what it is? My doctrine is always, to be perceived as fair, you have to be more than fair. I mean, this is somebody that has called me a card-carrying Donald Trump proud boy. He has called me a racist. I am decorated by the Atlantic City chapter of the NAACP, award-winning. I have a phenomenal record on civil rights matters, African-American issues, you name it. And this scumbag calls me a racist. And here I am trying to, help him. He did maybe not always on the public dole. Might have had a job. Did have a job. It's just, I can't even tell you why I go out of my way to be fair with people that are so unfair to you in return. Laquetta Small is criminally charged with second-degree endangering the welfare of a child, 3 separate counts of disorderly persons, simple assault. And guess what that means, Laquetta? That means anywhere in the country, you can't be the active superintendent. Only in Atlantic City has this been allowed to continue for a month or whatever it's been, close to it. Their first appearance is on May 15th. That's another story that we broke first. My prediction would be that they will waive that appearance. Constance Days Chapman waived her first court appearance. So believe me, I love, I honor, I respect, and I believe in the presumption of innocence. It's the bedrock of our judicial system. And Laquetta Small and Marty Small and Constance Days Chapman, all entitled to it. Now, Marty's in a different position because he's an elected official. They're not held to the same standard. If he's convicted of a second degree endangering the welfare of a child, then it's bye-bye. Bye. There was a movie once, and I'm trying to think, and I really like it. I know. Disclosure. When Michael Douglas, before the entire board and the new company that's coming in to take over the existing company, when he just fries her with evidence, he waves bye-bye, and he whispered it, bye-bye, bye-bye. And she was out. He won, she lost. Bye-bye. That'll be bye-bye, Marty. But we'll see. Time will tell. It's going to take about 18 months to 2 years, which is ridiculous in itself. But look at it. That's what these cases take, unless you're Donald Trump. Then they race you into courtrooms. We start today. You got another trial? Too bad. I mean, they can't go fast enough. But this will take a year and a half, 2 years. Marty Small, criminally charged with second-degree endangering the welfare of a child, third-degree aggravated assault, third-degree terroristic threats, disorderly person simple assault. And by the way, these ones like Laquetta Smalls with the 3 separate counts of disorderly person simple assault, we have to have our legislators and they say they're going to do it, they have to review these things. Like when you fail to report, when a child comes and is so brave and comes and tells an adult, I am being emotionally and physically abused, and you don't report it, that, to me, that needs to be first degree, second degree. That cannot be disorderly persons, this or that. Come on. It's unacceptable. We'll continue this right after the break, and you can jump in an open forum at 609-407-1450 with whatever you want to talk about on the Hurley in the Morning program.
Hurley in the Morning.
They always have great conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Turn up your radio. Here's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
Stormy, this was all used to humiliate, embarrass Donald Trump. All of it was irrelevant. All of it was immaterial. None of it had to do with the law. He's coached by prosecutors. The judge never should have allowed this testimony. And on top of all of it, a non-disclosure agreement is not illegal. It is a perfectly legal document on top of all of this. And nobody has even gotten close to bringing Donald Trump into any involvement in terms of the payment that this is connected to the election or that he had anything to do with it. It's pretty unbelievable. But the jury, the smoke and mirrors, and the salaciousness of this trial, let's put salaciousness on trial, because that's what they're doing here.
Check out the Sean Hannity radio show later today, right here.
Joe Biden wants you taxed to the brink, under the thumb of the IRS, and controlled with a digital dollar. That's why thousands of hardworking, patriotic Americans are opting out by diversifying their savings with precious metals like gold and silver. And guess what? Sean Hannity is doing the same. He's been purchasing precious metals like gold and silver from the top-rated company, Goldco. Goldco is a 7-time Inc. 5000 winner, #1 rated gold IRA company with over 5,000 5-star reviews. And they've placed over $2 billion in precious metal sales for people just like you. Right now, they're offering up to $10,000 in bonus silver while supplies last. That's right, up to $10,000 in bonus silver, but only while supplies last. So if you're looking to diversify your savings, call Goldco at 855-815-GOLD to learn how you could get started today. Tell them Hannity sent you and see if you qualify for up to $10,000 in bonus silver. Call Goldco at 855-815-GOLD. That's 855-815-GOLD.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the Morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Hurley in the Morning.
It tends to make me feel a little bit more intelligent.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. Because it's all connected, what I try to do when I'm covering the story, you really can't talk about Laquetta Small without talking about Marty Small, and you can't talk about Marty Small and Laquetta Small without talking about Constance Days Chapman. And I also believe that, and I cannot confirm this, but I believe there has to be a serious investigation right now relative to the alternative high school, because the allegations of the minor child, the boy who had the iPad that's now in the possession of the Atlanta County Prosecutor's Office. The allegation is that the Smalls, with the help of the principal of the alternative school, this is not me. I'm not making outlandish allegations. This is the child that said that he, in his affidavit or tort claim notice, if you will, said that he had the evidence and that a condition of him being able to come back to school. He also alleges he was put out of the high school for no reason and placed in the alternative school. And then his allegation is that he was not permitted to come back to school until he gave them this iPad. When has that ever been a condition upon? What would that possibly be about? Now, the child says that it's about the Smalls wanting to destroy evidence, which if his iPad has, and the prosecutor's office has the iPad, so they know if it has the goods on it or not. The child says that he had proof that abuse happened and that he was able to record it during conversations that he was having. So you can't talk about one without the other. Constance Days Chapman. I wonder if she has figured this out. I mean, she has, the credential of a school principal. She has a degree. She has a teaching certificate. She has a principal's certificate. So I can't imagine that I have figured something out that she hasn't been able to figure out. She faces 5 years. I'm not talking about like you get 5 years, but nobody really gets that. I'm talking she could do 5 years in prison. Second-degree official misconduct. Not to mention, if you're guilty of all this stuff, you're done. You lose your pension. You can't teach ever again. You can't be a principal ever again. You'll never advance and become a superintendent, either here or somewhere. It'll be over. And what if you think about it, in my opinion, her crime is, instead of doing the right thing, allegedly, she worked for the two Smalls. A child allegedly reported to the adults that she was emotionally and physically abused, and instead of following the law of the state of New Jersey, which says the first call you have to make, it's not to your building principal, and if you are the principal, it's not memo to self. You have to. This is not like a suggestion. By law, you have to call the Department of Child Protective Services, formerly DIFAS, and you have to tell them. And the reason for that is because there is likely a child that's in danger. And what you don't want to have happen is for that to never be reported, and then instead you allegedly go to the alleged abusers and you tell them. These are the allegations that are well documented at this time. The criminal charges for Constance Days Chapman: second-degree official misconduct, third-degree hindering apprehension of another, fourth-degree obstruction of justice, and this one is the one that just gets my goad: disorderly persons charge for failure to report child abuse. The fact almost looks like that law was written by child abusers for themselves. Hey, I'm a child abuser, and so let me make this the least possible thing that it can be. This, to me, is one of the worst things of all, that a child was courageous. And you can only imagine, because most of us have not been in this position, that if you were hypothetically emotionally and physically being abused, knocked out unconscious. I forget that term. I never heard it before, but caveman dragging down the steps or something. I don't know what it means. I never heard the term before. But if you go to the archives of my articles, it's in there. I don't like the term, but it's in there because it's alleged. And somebody has the courage to report it, and you don't report it to the state, and instead you go allegedly to the home and you tell the parents, you rat out the child that courageously came because they trusted an adult. That cannot be. It is, but it cannot be allowed to be a disorderly persons offense. The New Jersey legislature must revisit this. To me, that should be a second-degree crime, at least. Third degree on a bad day. Second degree is what it should be, because that should be considered. We should look upon that as any adult that engages in that behavior should have been charged, and if guilty, should have been found guilty of a heinous crime against a child. That re-victimizes the child, that behavior. So Constance Days Chapman, your charges alleged, presumption of innocence noted, but those criminal charges are all because allegedly you did the wrong thing. And I have a sneaky suspicion that unless she rats them out, that she's going to take a big fall here, big hit. Because it's really unambiguous. The Department of Child Protective Services has already confirmed that no one ever called them to report this. It's not in dispute that it was reported. And they say that it was never reported. So that's on that. Then if you did that, then you take the other ones. It's like bowling pins. And you got Earl Anthony rolling the ball, man. He knocks down 10 almost every time. Second degree official misconduct, boom. Nightmare. Third degree hindering apprehension of another. Fourth degree obstruction of justice. You know, hey, if this is over by 2026, see you in 2031. We'll be back. Don't go away.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
33 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley. 3 stories that you can follow right now on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. Atlantic City Board of Education special meeting tonight. We'll be doing everything we can to cover it in real time. Tow truck driver caused traumatic injuries to an Egg Harbor Township teenager. We have that story. And the Holy Spirit High School, great school, wonderful school, will have a new principal. We have the story. Check it out on the app. We'll be back.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. This morning, not too bad. Peaks of sun early and dry for now. Temperatures across South Jersey hovering around 60 degrees. High is 71 today. Turning cloudy, though, with a few showers and thunderstorms likely from midday into the afternoon. Tonight, expect a period of rain, low 52. Tomorrow, showery and drizzly all day long. It'll be miserably cool. Our high only reaches 54. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City, Brigantine, Mays Landing.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
That just went so fast. Welcome back. 37 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley with a special offer from my friends at Ambient Comfort Heating and Air Conditioning Professionals. Get your air conditioning system checked now. That's right, now. Not when you're sweaty and miserable. Do it today when it's going to be what? Like 65 degrees maybe. I think it was like 60 when I ventured out 4.5 hours ago. Do it now. And this is just a fact that the sooner you discover a problem, the easier the repairs tend to be. And while the price of just about everything has gone up, and it's gone up a lot, Ambient Comfort's tune-up special is the same affordable price, just $59 for new customers. I actually don't know how they do it because they travel well, and I mean it's like a really, really fair, excellent price, and it's well worth it. We do it twice a year. Their certified technicians will perform a thorough precision tune-up on your system. They'll make sure it's safe. They'll make sure it's running at maximum efficiency, and they'll make sure it's prepared to get you through the summer heat. That's regardless of who originally installed it. It doesn't matter. They can work on your system. When comfort matters, choose who I choose. Choose Ambient Comfort. Schedule your tune-up now at AmbientComfortNJ.com. That's AmbientComfortNJ.com. Or call 609-568-0955. That's 609-568-0955 for your $59 air conditioner tune-up for new customers. Tell them Harry Hurley sent you to Ambient Comfort. You know, I feel like I am starring as Harry Hurley life coach in this portion of the program. and I'm trying to, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, the game show, throw a lifeline to Constance Days Chapman, who I really think has the possibility of being the fall guy. Because, look, she got charged first. They didn't get charged first. She got charged first. If you have ever watched the movie, and I love it, he's a little bit liberal in it, but I love the movie. And of all things, Rob Reiner is the director of the movie, but it's before he became totally whacked out. Rob Reiner, lefty, communist, almost crazy socialist Rob Reiner, and he did a great job in his position, director of the movie. It's the American president. Michael Douglas is the president. Annette Bening has a great role. And there's other very recognizable people like Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox is an aide to the president. And he's talking with the president and some of the other aides. He says, I'm the one, I'm at the level. I'm the one that gets 18 to 36 months in Leavenworth. I think that Constance Days Chapman is in significant danger. Significant danger. And I wrote an article that I hope you read at the time. I published it on May 3rd, but I never talked about it on air because we're just too busy. And the headline of the article is Atlantic City Principal has talented criminal attorney. And I do go into that I believe there is a conflict because I seem to be the only one. There's a handful of judges that seem to agree with me. But there's a lot of these cases that are Atlantic City centric where one of the attorneys is either him or herself or of counsel at a firm that has a contract with the city of Atlantic City. And you know my theory about coincidences. I don't believe in them. So I wrote a piece that Atlantic City High School principal Constance Days Chapman has hit the lottery with her selection of Lee Vartan as her criminal defense attorney. We've never met, but I do know him by reputation. And you won't hear me say a bad word about Lee Vartan. The only potential downside is that Vartan works for a highly respected law firm that currently has a legal services contract with the city of Atlantic City. And we back it up. We actually have the contract amount, and all of that. The Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office has criminally charged Constance Days Chapman with all those crimes that I outlined right before the break in the last segment, the second degree official misconduct on down to failure to report child abuse. Vartan is one of the premier criminal defense and trial attorneys in the state of New Jersey. I can't prove this, but if you ask me what do I think Marty Small got Constance Days Chapman, her attorney. Now, maybe Constance Days Chapman will say that's not true. Maybe her father would say, Harry, no, that's not true. But I'm not alleging that. I'm telling you, if you ask me what I think, that's what I think. Vartan works with Jeffrey Chiesa, full disclosure, a friend of mine, a great attorney, a great guy. Chiesa served as the 59th Attorney General of the state of New Jersey, and that was under Chris Christie, and a former chief counsel to former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. Christie then appointed Chiesa. It's a story I think we broke on this program, or simultaneously to it actually happening, like the next second. He was on the air with us at the time. Chiesa was our United States Senator when he was appointed, and he served from January 10th, 2012 until June 6th, 2013. He was the first Republican United States Senator for New Jersey since Nicholas Brady, and he got it by Ronald Reagan appointment more than 42 years ago. Brady succeeded Harrison Williams, who was United States Senator, and you probably have, know the history of all that, Abscam and all that stuff. Chiesa did great work in Atlantic City at the behest of Governor Christie. He really did. And I have nothing bad to say about him. I can't. I'd be lying. And I have nothing bad to say about the firm. My only grievance is I don't like this stuff where you have a legal contract in Atlantic City and then you become the attorney. I forget what was Damon Tyner for that person that LaToya Dunstan had charged with certain things. And then Judge Rosenberger was like, hey, you have a conflict. Oh, yeah, Your Honor, I have a conflict. Bye. And he couldn't run out of there quick enough. But he tried. And then you had the attorney that was representing LaToya Dunstan's opponent in the contest phase. By the way, I do have to revise and extend my remarks. Blee was in a position where if they would have brought it up, I don't know why they didn't bring it up, but I am told they never brought it up to say, look, this opponent of mine has an attorney that has a contract with the city of Atlantic City. This can't be the attorney. I'm pretty sure I can't answer for Blee, but I think Blee would have addressed it. But he wasn't permitted to bring up the conflict. And again, don't get me started. I don't know why Rosenberger could. Local level is evidently different than the Superior Court level. I don't know. But I'm just telling you that's what I've been told by somebody that I trust. Because I was hitting Blee pretty hard on how can you let this happen in your courtroom. It's a disgrace. And it turns out he's not allowed to bring it up. The other counsel would have had to bring it up, and they should have. I don't know how that didn't happen. LaToya Dunstan brought it up on our interviews. So in the Mayor of the Morning's court, it came up. The Chiesa law firm was awarded a legal services contract from the city of Atlantic City. It's on the March 20th, 2024 council meeting agenda. I think it's a $50,000 contract, but don't quote me on that. That's not – the amount of it's not significant. The contract – having it is what's significant. And there's been this pattern of Marty's small political allies obtaining attorneys who have legal services contracts with the city of Atlantic City. And there's just no mistaking that that's a fact. I mean, I can name 3 cases, and I just did. So the other thing I would say, even though you have picked someone that is incredibly major league, big time. This Vartan was up and could have been U.S. attorney for New Jersey. He was up for attorney general. I mean, he is terrific. But if Marty gets you your attorney, then I think your whole defense is going to be predicated upon helping Marty. That's why he does it. So if this is, again, Harry Hurley, life coach, I would get somebody that's not involved with the city contract that Marty Small made happen with his allies on city council. I would get your own attorney, even though I readily confess you have a great one. But there may come the day where I know what Marty said at that goofy April Fool's Day madness inside City Hall. It's a personal matter, but here I am in City Hall, and you can't separate us. Constance Stace Chapman has done nothing wrong, and you cannot split us up. We won't be split up. I mean, he's telegraphing everything you can do to say that can't happen. But I've been doing this for a long time. And if someone says, hey, look, this is what we could do, but, if you go to trial and you were found guilty, you're going away for a long, long time. That makes a lot of people. I mean, Robert Menendez, there have been numerous reports, Robert Menendez reports that he's going to go against his own wife. Again, that's not me reporting it, but I'm telling you, it's in many published and electronic reports. So I've seen a lot of people say, you can't split us up. we are inseparable. Yeah? Okay. We'll see. We'll be back.
Mark Levin.
So if you're voting Democrat, you're voting for open borders. You're voting for fentanyl. You're voting for a party that will imprison, if it can, its political opponents. You're voting for a party that supports Hamas, supports the United Nations against the United States and Israel. You're voting for a party that appeases communist China. You're voting for a party that embraces communist Cuba and communist Venezuela.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
It's a source I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Just saw during the break, I was getting a lot of communications during my monologue there, and I didn't see it until the break. Councilman Zia is represented by yet another attorney, although this one has represented two different interests that all are in Marty Small's favor. What I'm trying to say is these are all attorneys that have contracts with the city that represent clients that I think it's obvious Marty Small gets these attorneys for these various allies of his. If they deny it, then they deny it. Then it's just a delicious, fabulous, sloppy wet, coincidence, which I don't believe, but could be, but I don't believe it. So here's another example of an attorney with a city contract. Again, I didn't think you could do these things. When you have a contract with the city, you have a conflict. You're going to go up against a sitting councilwoman when you have a contract with the city? And other examples that I just don't believe it's permitted, but yet it seems to be happening, or it attempts to happen with great regularity. 54 minutes past the hour. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning, Harry.
Morning.
Are you going to be broadcasting from the rally on Saturday?
We are not going to be broadcasting the rally. I will be at the rally, but we will not be broadcasting the rally.
Okay. And one other thing.
But by the way, you will be able to get it. The Trump website will have it. Newsmax typically carries all the Trump rallies, so you'll be able to hear it.
Okay. And one other thing. On Roku, last evening, I watched a movie called The Accidental President. And it was how Trump beat Hillary, even though everybody said Hillary was going to win.
Yeah, well, he's not the accidental president, but, they can go and do that story. He was, what the people wanted.
Yeah. So, okay, well, I was wondering if WPG was going to be broadcasting the rally.
We are not, but I told you where you can get it, so you'll be covered. Have a good day. Thank you. 56 minutes past the hour. Let me see if there's anything more about this particular attorney and Days Chapman that I wanted to fill you in on. I think we pretty well covered it. The Smalls' first court appearance is scheduled for this upcoming Wednesday, May 15th. I predict that they will waive their first court appearance, and we'll let you know when that. Can't say what hasn't happened yet, but that's what they'll do. If you don't have to go, you don't go. If Trump didn't have to go to this thing in New York, he wouldn't go. I don't hold that against anybody at all. Well, I'll tell you, I just don't know. There's something I want to share with you that I have talked about in the past. This Japanese baseball great, Major League Baseball great, Shohei Ohtani, his former interpreter, has agreed to plead guilty to federal charges that he illegally transferred about $17 million from Shohei Ohtani's bank account without Ohtani's knowledge to pay off his gambling debts. The only thing about this, and Pete Rose, I understand unless it's like faked out, but I don't think it is because you can fake anything now. But there's baseballs, and I predicted this before it even existed. I said, Pete Rose is going to be signing baseballs. I wish I had an interpreter. It just seems like, and maybe because it is true, that Ohtani just has nothing whatsoever to do with this and that he is the victim of someone that, found a way to get wire transfers done and things like that. But I just feel like they really raced to instantly exonerate Ohtani. I'm not accusing him of anything. I'm not just saying that, to be safe. I mean, I really do my very best to be as fair as possible, even with people that are unfair to me. It's just the way I am. It's the way I am, and I want to be. I want to be a better person, and not just be unfair to someone, because you can be. It's just that's not my style. But I don't like the way this was handled. And boy, they gave Pete Rose. I know it's totally different, and Pete Rose bet on baseball and all of that. But this just seems like nobody could know anything until they exonerated Ohtani, and it's just this guy, and that's that, and shut up. Don't even think about it. I just don't like the way that this was handled. It could very well be that it's exactly as it is. Without Ohtani's knowledge, all this money was stolen. And, of course, if that's the case, that makes Ohtani, just an incredible victim here. I don't care how much money you make. And he's got the biggest contract of all time, $17 million. That's $17 million after taxes. That's a lot of money. But I don't like it. So they got a plea agreement between federal prosecutors and this guy Ipe Mazurahara, or whatever his name is. I think that's actually close, believe it or not. It was announced yesterday by the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, and the interpreter was charged in a criminal complaint last month. He's pleaded guilty to it, and we'll see what happens, by way of what kind of time he's going to get. Obviously, when you don't make the government take years and go through the gauntlet, you get a better deal than if you did the opposite. But I still think he's going to get a lot of time. I mean, $17 million, that's no joke. John Zarek joins the program next. Thanks so much for listening to Hurley in the Morning. We are the Truth in Broadcasting, and we'll be right back.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way and the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Hey, thank you. Welcome back. It is 6 minutes past the hour. This is John Zarek's weekly program, presented and sponsored by the law offices of John Zarek. Thursday mornings in the 8 o'clock hour. John Zarek is the official and exclusive lead counsel for the Hurley in the Morning program. And the law offices of John Zarek, they focus their efforts on criminal defense law. The goal is to provide you with the very best legal defense. You can reach John and his team at 609-641-2266 on the web at johnzarek.com. Counselor, welcome.
Good to be here, Harry.
Good to see you.
So good to be here.
I want
plenty to talk about.
I want to open with something real quick, if you don't mind. Then you take it from here, because I saved this since Tuesday. Ukrainian counterintelligence investigators foiled a Russian plot to assassinate President Volodymyr Zelensky. Nobody's talking about this, and it turns out, allegedly, 2 colonels in the State Guard of Ukraine, and you know what they are, they protect the top officials, evidently were loyal to Putin. this was going to be Putin using inside people to kill Zelensky.
Yeah.
Not a new tactic, but scary.
But a really bad mistake. So
yeah, well, they got him.
The deal is sort of after things got going. Of course, he wanted to kill him and everybody else in the government initially in the February invasion, but the Ukrainians foiled a bunch of plots, and then things were kind of mellowed out, so that the countries typically go into a situation where you don't kill my president, I won't kill your president.
Well, here's what they wanted to do.
But now
though.
it's different.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what they wanted to do. Right as or right before Putin gets sworn in, I don't know what it is, a fifth term. I mean,
right.
He's president for life, even though supposedly he can't be. Remember when they faked it out and he was prime minister for a term, and what's-his-face became the president, but he was president in name only. So anyhow, Putin wanted Zelensky killed right before he took his oath of office to show his greatness, his superiority.
Sure, his dominance. So, yeah, so now Putin's got to be careful because,
he could be next.
They probably have a Mossad agent cutting his hair every week, so there's, I wouldn't
maybe he gets a shave in the chair too. That can end.
That's right.
You're laughing.
That's right. Yeah,
that's a sharp, straight edge.
Yeah,
a lot of bad things can happen.
Yeah, he's. You don't want the Ukrainians after you. That's for sure, because they know. They're listening to his phone calls, along with the United States, of course. So you don't want to be in that position, but. He made his move. Now we'll have to take the consequences.
All right, so if I didn't bring that up, what's your opening salvo?
Well, just, continuing to try to help Ukraine in D.C. and elsewhere. And my brother Mark is back home, so that's great.
First time in, seems like a long time.
Since January.
Wow.
So he's, he's back home. We're see each other doing normal stuff. It's really not. It's good not having to worry about him.
How is he about decompressing and things like that? How's he handle it?
He gets right into work. I mean, he is not. He's retired at this point, but he has plenty to do.
Yeah.
So he owns some businesses and so forth. So he has plenty to do.
Good. Keep busy and keep that hold, because I imagine it's kind of shocking to come from there to here.
Yeah, he's in the swing of things. He's done it a number of times. I mean, he's probably spent out of the last 24 months, probably 18 months, something like that. So,
John, here's something that's going on right now that I think is flat out despicable. The President of the United States has confirmed that if Israel goes into Rafah and they and of course they have to, because that's where the Hamas battalions are, that he's not going to supply them with the bombs or the artillery shells that they need to win. I find this reprehensible and despicable.
Agreed. There is a large group of people in the country, although not as large as the decent people in the country, but there's a significant group and very well-funded group. That's really the important thing. I mean, you can have fewer people, but if they can bring up the money that, say, the conservative people in the country can bring, then they're dangerous, and that's what they're doing. They are outsized in their influence. In other words, they're causing the United States to engage in policies that the majority, and I would say the significant majority, not just a 51-49, but significant majority of the American people do not want, do not support. And they're able to ram it down his throat and make him do these things.
Terrible.
And that...
John, what I didn't like, he was confronted about this because it leaked. They denied that this was his position because he was giving that speech on Tuesday. I'll call it the Holocaust speech. He waited until after the Holocaust speech, now in an interview on Wednesday, and see Wednesday now what they're trying to do, because they've successfully, to this extent, did this lawfare stuff where Trump is locked down on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, as you know, in court. So Wednesday is the only day of the business week that Trump can campaign. They're doing a thing with Biden, trying to fake like he's an active campaigner. So on Wednesday, they're trying to make news. So he does this interview where the day after he delivers the Holocaust speech, he says, I'm not going to give Israel the weapons they need if they go into Rafah. But of course, they have to go there because that's where the terrorist enemy is.
It's where the bad guys are.
Yeah. Where would you go? I mean, so this is terrible.
Yeah, it's really, really bad. It doesn't make sense to the majority of the American people. And
you know what it does? It makes him, the pro-Hamas people call him Genocide Joe. So they're not giving him any credit for these positions he's taking. The adverse positions he's taking to Israel costs him on that side. He has taken out staked land that makes him universally despised.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it is.
Stick with our ally.
It is.
But he needs Michigan and he needs Wisconsin. He needs the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party. That's what this is about.
Yeah, sure. And he's doing the wrong thing, and everyone should remember this. He's doing the wrong thing. He's doing really a despicable thing in order to get some votes. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, but I think his calculation here is really bad. Let's get the break in. We're going to be right back. Smart Law with John Zarek continues on the station that plays the winners. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 with John. I am Hurley in the morning. We'll be right back.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
It's a refreshing drive to work in the morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Hurley in the morning.
They stick to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. It's 16 minutes past the hour. Smart Law with John Zarek continues. And a reminder, to reach the law offices of John Zarek, simple to do. Digitally, you can go to the website, and then there's a hyperlink right there, and you can dial right to the office from the website, johnzarek.com, or you can call direct 609-641-2266. That's 609-641-2266. Counselor.
Yes, Harry. I wanted to mention, too, since you mentioned the law offices of John Zarek.
Yes. Because this is Smart Law with John Zarek, after all.
Yeah. We obviously we handle a number of cases that get into the headlines and press and so forth, and radio, television, whatever. So we can always we periodically have to remind people that we just don't handle big cases, headline cases. Very serious felonies.
You handle municipal court cases. You do it all.
The question is, we handle serious cases.
Yeah.
And unless you don't plan on being employed, or you don't plan on ever needing any kind of license, or you don't plan on anything that's going to cause you scrutiny, and that can be, in 30 different areas of life. Unless you're doing that, then every case is important.
Yeah, I totally agree. How many times, John, do you see after the fact somebody that went in, I'll call them pro se Jimmy, and they feel like, oh, I did really good. They lowered it one thing, and look at me. I didn't need any help. And meanwhile, they don't understand what they have pled guilty to that is now on their record.
Sure. It happens to us all the time.
They thought they were a big winner.
Yeah.
Until they found out they weren't.
It happens all the time. We get people in and they say, yeah, I have a clear record and this is just a little problem. And we say, well, actually, Joe, when they said it was going to be expunged, or people are constantly told, don't worry about it. It'll be off your record in 2 years. It'll be off your record. No, it's off your record in some circumstances, but in many circumstances not. And that prior little matter being on their record can cause them to be in a position where something would otherwise be fairly simple but turn into a mandatory 3.5 years or 5 years, in prison. So you really...
Or you may have taken your last option to do what you just did, and something down the road could become a big problem because of the deal you took.
Exactly.
You may have lost your shot there. Let me ask you another thing that I think is, we can rip it right from the true headlines. President Biden wants to take marijuana, for example, and it not be a Schedule 1, like heroin and some of the others. Do you see the day where there is a mass expungement of all these small marijuana convictions over all these years? Is that going to happen?
Well, it's more or less happening now. It's more or less happening now with regard to possession cases. But I think it's going to be a national wipeout because there are people now suffering consequences from convictions they had 10 years ago that are not expunged and causing them a lot of trouble. And we don't want the policy is that we don't want people to suffer legal consequences because of marijuana possession or even distribution.
Yeah, I wanted I think it was a very workable solution. I wanted the decriminalization, not the recreational approval, and I think we should have gone that route. So if somebody had one, joint in the ashtray of their car and a dog from a local police department sniffed it, and here we go, and then you're wrecked over that, that should have never been like that.
Sure.
But somebody has enough that they're distributing, different story.
Sure. Well, it could be any amount. So let's say, not talking marijuana, let's say if it's pills or it's cocaine or heroin, which is really like marijuana used to be in the old days. I mean, it's all over the place.
Cheap too.
Lots of people using it. It's the recreational drug right now. So years ago, a guy has and this is frequent. He buys, there are two friends. He goes and buys $20 worth of heroin or cocaine or whatever. The police watch him go back around the corner and hand some to his buddy. And they go down the street, or they duck in the alley, they use it, and then they go down the street. It happens all the time. Not people you would typically think are drug dealers, but they're drug dealers. You don't have to sell it. You don't have to make a profit. You can just give it to somebody.
And that's distribution.
That's distribution, and it's the same statute. Now, that triggers, let's say that guy is going along and he's fine, but he gets he possesses a firearm when he's not allowed to under circumstances from a prior case that he thought was a small case. Maybe somebody told him, don't worry, it'll be off your record in 5 years or 10 years or something like that. He gets arrested with a gun, maybe accidentally arrested. A lot of people are, they're going along and not really thinking they're doing anything wrong. They get arrested with a gun, and after all, they can have a gun because they say to themselves, I can have a gun because I don't have any record. That lawyer told me it would come off my record in 5 years or 10 years. And we have to tell them, it's like the federal court story I tell you often. Well, it's not that way, Joe. Actually, you're looking at a mandatory 3.5 years in prison. No parole, second-degree conviction for a gun and certain persons, and, it could be 5 years because you've had a charge before. I mean, really devastating stuff. So it's very, very reckless not to have a lawyer, to not have an attorney and to sort of wing it on your own. It's really, it can be devastating. And, there are a lot of people that really aren't careful about how they deal with clients, how they advise clients, how they warn clients, how they give clients guidance for the future. And it can have very, very bad results. So I tell people, some people don't believe it. they think we're, big lawyers, that we only do big cases or represent famous people. Not at all. I'd say half of the stuff we do are routine municipal court type cases, but they have very devastating consequences. Yeah. Very devastating consequences if things go wrong. So you don't want to take that chance. You want, and as far as fees, we charge the fees that are necessary to keep our office going if we handle that type of case on a regular basis. And, it's relatively small amount of money in most cases. So, people shouldn't be afraid. You should at least talk
without a
and
doubt.
see what's what and see what's necessary.
There's so many times, this education is so important, John, because there's so many times people might read the local police blotter and think that's just a whole lot of petty stuff. But you have in there people that have licenses, whether it's a casino key license, a number 2 gaming license, if they still call it that, even the hotel registration license, medical professionals, you name it, lawyers, everybody. Those results can be absolutely devastating.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like it if you don't realize that.
Yeah. For example, you have a simple assault conviction, which could even be a mutual fight. People think, well, assault is one person going after another.
Right. Each may have filed charges.
No. Let's say they don't even file charges. They're in a bar, they're drinking too much, and a guy bumps into the other guy and he says, "Hey, watch your step," and they end up outside. Mutual combat. You're still not allowed to punch somebody, even though you both agree that's what you're going to do.
That's a great point. You both agree to go settle something.
Right.
You have a problem on your hands.
Now, what I recommend in those circumstances is you can go down to the PAL, put the gloves on and have a boxing contest.
Yeah.
You're allowed to do that, but you can't go out in the street and be slugging it out, because if you come and both get arrested, then you
have assault charges.
Let's say, for example, a lot of we don't get too many women fighting on the street, but some do, and some girls in high school do, and some young guys do. And if you get a conviction for a simple assault, you will never be a nurse, for example.
Wow.
They won't even let you into school. Because you can't do it because of New Jersey laws which prevent you from working with kids if you have that.
Now, if you're out and about and someone attacks you, I'm just going to bring this up because I think it's important. You do have the right to defend yourself.
Absolutely.
Now, of course, you could get mixed up into one of those things where if law enforcement comes across this encounter, they don't know immediately who started it. You have to untangle something at that point.
Sure.
Okay, I was attacked. I mean, I defended myself.
Yeah, and it's certainly good to have a lawyer in that situation.
Yes.
And that's, a lot of stuff like that we don't even charge for. I mean, if it's a call or some insight or something, no big deal. I mean, if it's an extended process, of course, we have to charge. But, it's really important to have a lawyer, and not only to get out of the problem that you're in, but also to clean up the mess and understand what the impairments of that are, because you just don't want to play with that.
And it's so important because it would be so easy. The local prosecutors are very nice. They're very professional. If you don't have a lawyer, you get to go see the prosecutor. Prosecutor says, look, this is what we can do. You're going to get this many points. You'll get no points. And this is what it is. If you agree, you plead guilty to this. And next thing you know, you really think that you're like Perry Mason. You think you did something fantastic.
Yeah.
And it might be disastrous.
There are people that come in a lot, and they'll say, well, they don't typically come to us, but across the board, there are lots of people that go into lawyers and say, those cops, they did this, they're no good, they're this, they're crooked, they're a string of invectives against the police. And what I tell them is, wait a second. The person most likely to show you mercy the person most likely to give you a break, even if they've arrested you, but later on is the police officer. They see the mayhem out there, and they know what records can do to people. They typically don't want to hurt people.
Try to help you.
The next person who's more likely to give you a break is the prosecutor. And I'd say the last person to give you the break would be the police officer, the judge, because if it gets to that point,
there's a charge and the whole thing.
If it gets to that point, the odds that you're going to get hurt are getting up there.
John, halftime break. We're going to be right back. Very listenable, very interesting. With John Zarek, I'm Hurley in the Morning. Join my friends at United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City for a spring market. It's fast approaching. Friday, May 24th. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., you can browse booths with a variety of crafts and other merchandise. You can enter a floral wreath contest, enjoy free ice cream, live music from Ralph Michaels' Sounds of Sinatra. If you are living and considering senior living options for yourself or a loved one, I recommend United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City, and here's why. They have fully remodeled private apartments. They look, I've been in them, they look like condominiums. It is just a beautiful, beautiful community. And I say that word because it's accurate. 2 restaurants, a bistro on the first floor level, on-site fitness center, and the Tapestry's memory care residence. Best of all, it's just 3 blocks from the Ocean City Boardwalk and Beach. Celebrate the season at the Shore Spring Market. Crafts, vendors, ice cream, live music, Friday, May 24th, right before Memorial Day weekend, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Shores, located at 2201 Bay Avenue in Ocean City. To learn more about United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City, call 609-399-8505. That's 609-399-8505. Back with John Zarek after this.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
31 minutes past the hour with John Zarek, Harry Hurley. 3 stories that you can follow on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Board of Education, in a story that we broke 2 days ago, special meeting tonight where action allegedly is going to be taken regarding the superintendent of public schools, most people believe. A tow truck driver and a crash has resulted in traumatic injuries for an Egg Harbor Township teenager. We have the story, and Holy Spirit High School will have a new principal. Check it out.
John. From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Today will be almost 20 degrees cooler than yesterday, and we have to add rain chances back to the forecast over the next 36 hours, too. Peaks of sun this morning, then clouds roll in. A few showers and thunderstorms likely from midday into the afternoon, high 71. Tonight, a period of rain, low 52. Tomorrow stays showery and drizzly all day, miserably cool with a high of only 54. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the Morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. It's 35 minutes past the hour. Smart Law with John Zarek continues. Counselor?
Yeah, we were talking about legal cases, how important it is to be represented and to be represented by somebody who takes it seriously. Like I take any. I've raised 3 daughters. Thankfully, they've never been in legal trouble, but that's what we worry about all the time. I knew they were going to go to college. I knew they were going to head to professional schools or grad school or whatever, and I want them to have an unimpaired future. Mm-hmm. So that's what I worried about a lot. But so and now when I get a client, I worry about the same thing. I want to just getting through the case and getting paid and doing an okay job or even a good job is not really enough for us personally, because we know unless you do a very good job and make sure things are clear and clean, we know there's going to be some residual problem. So it may not be a life-altering problem, but I can tell you, look at it this way. Let's say you have someone who is highly skilled, young surgeon, young attorney, young FBI agent, any number of computer genius, IT guy who's very advanced. They might have an income stream, if they're clear, who knows, $20 million, $30 million. I mean, over a lifetime, if they move up and so forth, it can be a lot of money. You can turn, one conviction, one small conviction of a seemingly no big deal thing can turn a $20 million income stream into $4 million. You know what I mean? Really fast.
Oh, yeah.
So isn't it worth it to invest a few dollars to protect that income stream? Unfortunately, people don't think strategically. Usually, the people that think very strategically are people that are, the president of businesses and, large enterprises.
Or just take the time to understand the potential implications of what can happen. If you don't do this exactly right, your exposure, they talk about in financial terms, if you get into option trading, it's called unlimited, the risk. Your exposure could be unlimited.
Yeah.
If you don't do the right thing.
Yeah, and so much of this depends on, like, people will sometimes say, as they will to any lawyer, really, you're smart, you really know what you're doing, you're really bright, and whatever. And we have some evidence of brains. we have some evidence,
Good. I would say compelling evidence.
Academics and so forth, but actually, I was an editor on the law review at my law review, and I recently was back at the school, and it was really good to see the people that I hung with, because we worked together intensely during law school on that project in particular, and it's really good to see people who see what happens when people get into the habit of working hard. We have, former United States attorney. Mm-hmm. These are my pals going to school. Yeah. Frank Birch, Piper LLC. He was my classmate. In fact, he got an award. I think he expanded the law school with his own money.
Wow!
Like by double. Maybe 5 years ago or so, and there was a dinner, and I went down to be there. He's my classmate, and congratulate him for being so generous and being the kind of guy that can do that. And be willing to do it.
Impressive.
But the people that worked hard, in order to be in that position, you have to work hard. Again. Brains is good, but, it's not the key. The key is being persistent and committed to the client or the project.
Like you say, do the work.
Yeah, and the people that were committed enough to do that job as, research editor, notes and comments editor, editor-in-chief, articles editor, things like that, they take a lot of time and a lot of effort. And your classmates aren't doing that.
Yeah.
They're playing tennis while you're doing that stuff. It's amazing how well the people in that group, in my group, did.
And no accident.
Supreme Court Justice.
Wow.
State Supreme Court Justice. Yeah. United States Attorney, the United States Attorney for the entire state. Mm-hmm. A couple guys and women, head of 800-person law firms, managing partners, law school professors, it's and of course Frank is Frank Birch was the all-time, Senator Gormley's part of his firm,
Piper, DL Piper.
LLC. So he was the top guy. But
that firm is, amazing. Actually, I've done a lot of reading about them.
Yeah, you know something. You know they're a powerful firm and a good firm. When I went to that dinner for Frank, as one thing was interesting. When he's with people he knew, went to school with, and so forth, he's just a regular guy. Hey, what's going on? When other people would show up, he would be very formal, which is a good, it's something I thought about after I went to that dinner, because people don't want, in general, people don't want someone like them representing them.
Interesting.
They don't want a regular guy representing them. They want the President of the United States representing them.
They want someone exceptional to be representing them.
Yeah. And, you have to be.
They may have everything hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
So it's no joke.
Yeah. And
let's take the last break. We're going to come back. It's a short break. So we're going to have a good 14 minutes uninterrupted as the law offices of John Zarek presents Smart Law with John Zarek. We continue.
Early in the morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person that can make sense of what's happening in Atlantic City.
On WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
Not only the news, but perspective too.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. It's 45 minutes past the hour. John Zarek, Smart Law with John Zarek continues 15 minutes before the top of the hour. Quick announcement. Dr. Raza will be our guest for the first half of the 9 o'clock hour. I'm not sure. I always negotiate with John, but respect that he's very busy, so we'll see if he wants to do the last half of next hour. If he has to go, he may have to go. But interventional cardiologist Dr. Raza will be our guest for the next half hour after John, and we'll be talking about AFib, atrial fibrillation, and stroke. So obviously real serious topics coming up with, remember now, we did Deborah last week because I missed the April program when I had the COVID-19 for a week. So we're making it up with last Thursday, and this is our regular appearance that was already set for months with Dr. Raza. Time is yours, John.
Yeah. I wanted to say, since you mentioned an interventional cardiologist, it's always easier to do hard things if you have compatriots who are doing the same thing. If you hang with people that are doing difficult things, it makes it much easier. Even if you're not working together, other friends are doing it.
Yep.
Makes it easier for you to do it. You don't feel like you're hanging out there alone. And one of my friends who is extraordinary is an interventional psychologist. He's Ukrainian, or of Ukrainian descent. He was born here. He's affiliated with Hopkins.
Wow.
And in fact, I after the passage of the $61 billion bill, I celebrated with him at the Capitol. He was there with a number of other people. He donates, in case anyone's concerned about, it might hurt a little to donate to UkraineHumanitarian.org, which is our nonprofit. 100% of the money goes to the street, hits kids, families, mothers, injured people, buying everything they need. In case, it might hurt to give some money, or you think it might hurt, he donates 70%, since the beginning of the war, 70% of his salary.
Wow. Tithing. Wow. It's amazing.
And that's serious money. The rest he pays taxes with.
Yeah.
But basically,
giving it all.
70% of his salary. So,
wow. That's commitment.
Yeah. Yeah. he's the real article, and he's a very encouraging, good friend. So we do sacrifice some, but we don't sacrifice 70% some. And
exactly,
you know, he's the kind of guy that does that. But that kind of commitment is not uncommon among Ukrainians. You know, I mean, guys, you know, there are a lot of people that have great careers in theater, the arts, sports. They put on a uniform, go to the front line, and risk everything.
Very impressive.
So, yeah.
John, in a narrative, what is the philosophy of the law offices of John Zarek in terms of criminal defense attorneys?
The philosophy is to be totally committed. That's really it. It really is simple as this. I happen to have a conscience. I know right from wrong. Mm-hmm. I know what, and I have the skill to understand what a good job is for a client, what doing a very good service is, and the difference between that and a so-so job and a poor job, you know. And we like to sleep at night. You know, we like to sleep at night. I mean, we're all the same way. You know, I think Stephanie was like that from day one of law school, you know, like really committed to do the right thing. So what we want to do is know that when someone comes to us, we're glad that they came, you know, and that was I would regularly ask people who work with me, for me, whatever, how do you feel when someone hires us, you know, after they've been there a while and so forth? And they typically will say, I feel so happy that they hired us and didn't go out in the field elsewhere, you know, because it's dangerous out there.
I was going to say, you know what can happen.
There are some good lawyers, but the dangerous part is when you have lawyers who are, and this can be in any field, have lawyers who are smart and skilled. They're necessarily going to do really good jobs in some of their cases, you know, but it doesn't mean that they have the commitment to do the best job in every case. There's a difference.
Absolutely.
You know, you can look really spectacular out there in certain cases, and, you know, everything goes right. It doesn't require sweating blood to get the job done. And you can rack up some, you know, some good wins, some good headlines, whatever. But only you know, typically, if the job is the best you can do. We had a case recently. So, you know, we want to feel good about what we do. Now, maybe that's a problem. That might be an emotional problem that we want approval, or we want, you know, we have a fear of being criticized. You know, I guess there could be 100 reasons for that. But I think it's that we just want to feel that we acted in a moral way.
Correct.
And an appropriate way. And especially when nobody else would know.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
You hold yourself to a standard.
Yeah. We had a situation not long ago where a dad came to us. We get a lot of veterans who come to us, you know, because we support veterans. We, you know, do the Ukraine stuff, and, you know, we understand each other, I guess. You know, I was on active duty during wartime, but, you know, not in combat or in a war zone during wartime. But lately it's a little different for Mark and I. But, you know, so we have a lot of veterans. We've always had a lot of veteran friends, and we get a lot of them come to us if they have issues themselves, but typically for a kid or a grandkid. And so this father came, who I know, and he said, look, Johnny really screwed up, and this is what happened. And it was really a case where there was great danger. And, a case you would normally say would end up in state prison.
Wow.
So we just started to work, and I told them, look, we're going to start, and we're not going to stop. I mean, this is not, if there's anything to do, we're going to do it. It could be a month of work, and it could be a year and a half of work. And, in that particular case, we did a number of things that didn't have to be done. No one would have noticed if it weren't done. I have to say that Brendan was a real driver in that, because he was very bright and came up with things that maybe we could do this. We talk it over, and let's do that. And it was a number of things. We weren't, we're never like arrogant with prosecutors, like we're going to kick your butt or something like that. I mean, we're always respectful, but that's really stupid. That's like the Eagles are about to play the Giants, and one of the Eagles 3 days before the game says, the Giants are a bunch of sissies or something like that.
Or people that fight with the umpire and they think they're going to get the next call.
Yeah, it's stupid.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Right.
So we don't do stupid things like that. But we work hard, and we did several things in that case which took a lot of time, which was certainly more. It ended up being much more time than we were paid for or expected to be paid for. But we tell our clients, once we're in, we're in. I mean, we don't look at the money anymore. We have clients that are looking at us like, as we keep going and do another thing and submit another brief and do an appeal, while the case is going on, they look at us and say, like, I said, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking these guys are out of their mind. You know what I mean? Or you're thinking, these guys are going to ask me for more money. And I told you what the deal was in the beginning. We forgot about it. So, over time, of course, we try to charge fees that over time, if we do all the work that is appropriate and necessary, we will keep the firm running and in a reasonable way and be able to pay the bills and have the time to do a good job. Not be, running to 26 courts for,
right.
As is common, unfortunately, in some circumstances. Certainly with the, maybe there are some people that do it right, but one of the worst things that ever happened, in my opinion, is the courts sell list of new cases to a company. That company gets hired by lawyers to send out 30,000 mailings a year all over the place.
Which means when you get a ticket of some kind, you will wind up with 30 letters.
And first of all,
coming to your home.
I think, practicing law is a profession.
Yeah.
It's special.
Yeah.
A profession means it's professional. You should maintain, your clients need you to be professional. They need to feel confident in you. How confident can you feel in a guy that sends out, in the crew? Now, maybe there are a couple good lawyers in there, and I'm sure there are, but in a crew that is one of 30 letters that the guy gets. I mean, you're starting off on a bad foot.
Agreed. Totally agree.
I think it's terrible. It's
as you know, your profession was very limited in terms of marketing and advertising. The phone book used to be,
and it should be.
It should be is right.
It should be
was the big deal, and then it was opened up to be able to do more.
It shouldn't even be the phone book. It shouldn't be television. It shouldn't be radio. And I'll tell you why, Harry. If you're looking for a lawyer and you don't know a lawyer, and most people don't. They're not hanging with lawyers typically. They're living their lives. If you're looking for a lawyer, and what do you have to do to get a lawyer? You have to talk to somebody you know. Maybe you do know a lawyer. Maybe there's a lawyer in the Elks Club with you, or the Lions Club, or Knights of Columbus, or whatever.
Or you know someone that has
or you know someone
and they told you who they
is
had.
an accountant, and you asked him and say, "Who's good at this? Do you know anybody?" At least someone has to think that lawyer is on the ball and honest and not going to be a thief and not steal your money. They were the days when good attorneys. We hated when those days left, when they started advertising. It was a Supreme Court case. We hated to see that, because we knew, and it happened immediately, the slimiest, most incompetent, most crooked lawyers were getting the majority of the cases because they jumped on advertising right away.
20 seconds.
Yeah.
It's
true.
So
we didn't do it because it seemed wrong.
You earned your reputation.
And it is wrong.
By getting it done. 3 names that I could just blurt out: Ed Jacobs, John Zarek, Bill Subin. That you guys earn your reputation by your work.
Yeah,
and reputation.
There are other
precedes.
people. That was the way law was at one time before advertising.
Are you leaving right now, or are you staying with me?
I'll hang.
Good.
Yeah,
then we have more time. No rush. Yeah. Deborah next. AFib and stroke. This is presented and sponsored by the law offices of John Zarek. We'll be back.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. It's 6 minutes past the hour. It's my honor, my privilege to welcome back Dr. Mohammed Raza. Dr. Raza is an interventional cardiologist with Deborah Heart and Lung Center. This is Deborah Heart and Lung Center Presents, and our topic this half hour is understanding atrial fibrillation and stroke. So we'll be getting all into this in just a moment. Let me just take a minute to let you know a little bit about Dr. Raza's background. A very talented interventional cardiologist, board certified in cardiovascular disease and interventional cardiology. Dr. Raza completed a residency in internal medicine at Drexel University College of Medicine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He also completed a fellowship in cardiology and interventional cardiology at Drexel University of Medicine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Raza has extensive experience in the field of interventional cardiology with a prime focus on structural heart disease interventions. His special interests include interventional cardiology, of course, valvular heart disease, adult congenital heart disease, complex coronary interventions, and peripheral vascular disease, another topic that we've talked about in the past. He has authored numerous articles in peer-reviewed journals, speaking at several regional and national professional society meetings, and he participates in clinical research projects as well. And again, the topic this half hour on Deborah Heart and Lung Center Presents is understanding AFib and stroke. Dr. Raza, welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Harry. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, it is an honor to present you, and you're going to be helping so many people that are listening. What is atrial fibrillation, which a lot of people call AFib?
Yeah. So to understand atrial fibrillation, let's step back to understand heart itself. And as we discussed before in the last show, the heart has 4 chambers, 2 top chambers and 2 bottom chambers, and the blood flows from the top chambers of the heart to the bottom chambers, and the bottom chambers of the heart pump blood into the body. The upper chambers, or the top chambers, are called atria. And the way it works is that there's an electrical signal that travels from the top chambers of the heart to the bottom. So from atria to the bottom chamber, which are called ventricles. So atria and ventricles, and the heart, the way pumping happens is the top chambers or the atria pump first, and then blood goes to the bottom chambers, and then the ventricles or the bottom chambers of the heart pump blood into the body. So how this is all happening is because there is underlying electrical signal that travels from the top chambers to the bottom chambers. So the electrical signals make the top chambers of the heart pump first, and then travels to the bottom chambers, and then the ventricles contract after that. So top and then the bottom. So this electrical signal is key for a organized functioning of the heart. And the electrical signal in the top chamber, when it goes in a chaotic or disorganized fashion and kind of fibrillates in the atria, hence the term comes atrial fibrillation. So the top chambers in atrial fibrillation are fibrillating, there is no organized pumping or contraction, and the bottom, and that electrical signal then also in a disorganized fashion connects to the bottom chambers. So although the bottom chambers of the heart continue to pump and contract, but not in organized fashion, and it could be irregular pumping leading to a typical symptom of atrial fibrillation, that is palpitations or feeling of the irregular heart rhythm. So the top chambers, atria, fibrillating and not pumping in organized fashion is really that drives the term atrial fibrillation.
Great explanation and a really good place to start. Dr. Raza, are there different types of AFib?
Yeah, so, atrial fibrillation can be of predominantly two types. One is the paroxysmal, which means it comes and goes. So somebody could be in atrial fibrillation for an hour or two, and then it goes back to the normal sinus rhythm, which we call, and that is called paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, which tend to have less symptoms in general. And then it's the permanent or persistent atrial fibrillation, which means the atrial fibrillation stays longer. In persistent, it can still come back, but permanent means it is permanently there, and it's all the times. And both have its consequences on the function of the heart. So on and off, which is paroxysmal, versus persistent or chronic, which is kind of long-term effects on the heart.
Do palpitations have any bearing, anything to with the topic of atrial fibrillation?
Yes, atrial fibrillation, one of the common causes of palpitation, and especially in senior population, because they tend to have atrial fibrillation more often. So one of the most common symptoms of atrial fibrillation is basically feeling of the irregularity of the heart function, and people describe it as palpitations. Now, obviously, there are several other causes of palpitations, but AFib or atrial fibrillation is one of the most common ones in the senior population.
We are visiting with Dr. Raza, interventional cardiologist from Deborah Heart and Lung Center. Host error earlier. I meant to mention, in addition to all of his impressive board certifications, that Dr. Raza has two important leadership positions with Deborah Heart and Lung Center, director of the Structural Heart Program and also director of Interventional Cardiology Fellowship Program. Forgive me for failing to mention that, Dr. Raza. But in terms of risk factors, what are the risk factors for AFib?
So the most common risk factor, unfortunately, is age. So if you have a choice, don't get it older. It's unfortunately very common in senior population. Once you are beyond age 60, the prevalence of atrial fibrillation is very high, especially when you're in 80s and 90s. Atrial fibrillation becomes a very common disease to deal with. So aging itself, then hypertension, high blood pressure is very commonly associated with atrial fibrillation, obstructive sleep apnea or sleep issues, that is very common. If people are obese and that leads to sleep apnea, and also in turn leads to high blood pressure, and that is a perfect substrate for atrial fibrillation. Other etiologies are hypothyroidism, which is the thyroid hormone if it's functioning, a hyper level, which means above and beyond normal functioning, versus it's under functioning. Both ways, it can lead to atrial fibrillation. These are the most common ones, and then the rare ones, secondary causes from other hormonal abnormalities. But the most common is the age, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, and hyperthyroidism.
The topic this half hour on Deborah Heart and Lung Center Presents Dr. Raza is understanding atrial fibrillation, AFib, and we will get to the second half of the program. We're going to talk about stroke, so we have a lot of important stuff to cover with Dr. Raza. To make an appointment with Deborah Heart and Lung Center, you can call by phone 609-621-2080. I'll repeat, and anybody out there listening, you can email me at any time. I'll be your human Rolodex. Happy to give you all this information at any time. 609-621-2080 or digitally at demanddeborah.org, demanddeborah.org, and there's a hyperlink you can't miss. It's in red. You just cannot miss it, where you can click right on it, and you can schedule an appointment digitally as well as by calling the number that I gave, 609-621-2080. Dr. Raza, what are the symptoms of AFib?
So, Harry, the first one you already indicated is the palpitations. So people can feel the heart is racing or it's irregular. People have described that way. Essentially all lumped under palpitations. Then in some patients, this could lead to fatigue and tiredness because of very fast heart rate, not enough blood is circulating in the body. So fatigue, tiredness, symptoms of shortness of breath is common one, and people can go into heart failure and secondary symptoms, which means swelling of the legs. And unfortunately, one of the not so-called symptom, but more of a biggest complication of atrial fibrillation is stroke, which we're going to talk in a second. So common way of presentations is somewhere starting from palpitations, weakness, tiredness, shortness of breath, and even passing out.
If you have palpitations, Dr. Raza, do you have AFib, or could you have unremarkable palpitations and not have AFib?
Yeah, so palpitations is a very broad, palpitations cover a very broad range of issues with the heart. So, for example, a skip beat is also considered palpitation. People have skip beats which are very benign, but it continues to, AFib or atrial fibrillation, which requires attention. People can have racing of the heart and palpitation when there is anxiety and stress, and that is completely normal because the heart is trying to pace at a very fast rate in the situation of fear or anxiety and stress. And people can have, pumping and thumping in the chest. That's also described as palpitation. And that's very benign. And there are other arrhythmias like supraventricular tachycardia, that they can lead to palpitations. There are more dangerous rhythm abnormalities that can also lead to palpitations first. But AFib is unique in some ways that people have, it's not as lethal, fortunately. I say as lethal is relatively a benign and very treatable rhythm abnormality. And it mostly will cause people to feel they are tired and their heart is racing and they don't have the energy. And that typically tells us this is likely atrial fibrillation. And also in the right patient subset, somebody who is, 80 years old, more than likely the palpitation is going to be atrial fibrillation versus somebody who is 30 years old. The palpitations or etiology of palpitation could be different, and most common one could be just the anxiety and stress and skip beats, which is extra heartbeats, and they are relatively benign.
That's so important, and I thank you for that sidebar, Dr. Raza, on the palpitations. In terms of atrial fibrillation, how is it diagnosed?
It's diagnosed very simply in any office where there is electrocardiogram can be performed. So in a primary care physician's office or any office, the cardiology office obviously, but any place where you can basically monitor the heart rhythm, essentially the simplest thing is to perform an electrocardiogram, and that can diagnose it.
Now, depending on your answer, this could be music to your listeners' ears right now. Can atrial fibrillation, AFib, can AFib be prevented?
Yes. For the etiologies we just discussed, for example, high blood pressure, sleep apnea, which is very common, underdiagnosed, undertreated. So obesity, sleep apnea go hand in hand. So if someone has high blood pressure and sleep apnea, obesity, and or thyroid problems, that if we fix them or manage them well, the risk of atrial fibrillation will go down. And I say the risk will go down. We still don't quite understand why some people have atrial fibrillation, others don't. We quite don't understand that. But we have association of different diseases with atrial fibrillation, so I mentioned some of them. If we control them well, the risk will decrease, or at least the management of atrial fibrillation will be easier. To answer your question, yes, it can be prevented in some ways in some patients, but not all.
Can you go in and out of AFib? In other words, can that happen? And also, can you have it at one point and not have it at a later point, or once you have it, you have it? How does that work?
That is excellent question. So that's going back to when you asked about the types of atrial fibrillation. So in general, people could have paroxysmal, which is on and off atrial fibrillation, and people actually feel it. Some patients will say, you know what, I went to the restaurant, I felt, my heart was pacing, and some people who are more into medicine and they kind of are more involved in their health, they can even feel their pulse, and the pulse is, heart is racing, and they can, even say, it was above 100 or so. And so you can be in and out. That's paroxysmal, and the more persistent, permanent is when people stay in it for longer. And underlying in general, when people have persistent or permanent atrial fibrillation, there is underlying structural changes in the heart, and that puts them at high risk to stay in atrial fibrillation for a longer period of time. And one of the most common one is when the top chambers of the heart start to enlarge over time because of high blood pressure, because of atrial fibrillation itself. And when the top chambers of the heart start to enlarge, people tend to be in atrial fibrillation more often or persistently or permanently.
You are doing what you always do. You're putting on a clinic, free clinic, from Dr. Raza, the interventional cardiologist from Deborah Heart and Lung Center. Also, Dr. Raza is the director of the Structural Heart Program and the director of Interventional Cardiology Fellowship Program at Deborah Heart and Lung Center. We only take one break. We're going to take it now. Only one break during Deborah Heart and Lung Center presents, and we're going to shift gears to an extent, but we'll come back in and out, back with AFib as well. But the month of May is National Stroke Awareness Month, and when we come back, we'll address the issue of those who have AFib. Are you at risk for stroke? And Dr. Raza will explain if so why. Much more in addition to that when we come back. And a reminder to make an appointment with Deborah Heart and Lung Center. To schedule an appointment, call 609-621-2080, or you can do this digitally as well. Any digital device from your smartphone to iPads, laptop, desktop, whatever it is, any digital device, just navigate your way to demanddeborah.org, and it will become self-evident how to schedule your appointment. You can't miss it. There'll be a speed button tab, a hyperlink to make the appointment digitally as well. We'll be back with Dr. Raza after this. The topic this half hour on Deborah Heart and Lung Center presents Dr. Raza is Understanding AFib and Stroke. We'll be right back.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Brigham Keene.
Mays Landing.
EHT. Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
That gentlelady is, in fact, correct. This is the stuff that we need to talk about. We are talking about AFib, understanding it, and now we're going to get into the issue of stroke during National Stroke Awareness Month, which is the month of May. Dr. Raza, in terms of stroke and people with AFib, if you have AFib, are you at risk for stroke?
Yes, absolutely, Harry. One of the biggest complications of atrial fibrillation is stroke, which, as everybody knows, is absolutely devastating for anyone. It could lead to permanent disability and even death. So atrial fibrillation leads to or has highest risk of stroke, especially in elderly patients. And the risk on an average is about 5% a year. On an average, it can go to 10% in some patients. So, and then getting into, why patients who have atrial fibrillation are at high risk for stroke, getting back to our basic understanding of the heart, the top chambers, the atria. There is, as I explained before, normally there's organized contraction or pumping of the top chambers of the heart, so the blood is constantly moving from upper to the lower chambers. And in patients who have AFib, there is no organized contraction, so essentially there's fibrillating of the top chambers of the heart, and that leads to stagnation of blood in the atria. In the left upper chamber of the heart, or atrium, there is a structure called left atrial appendage. That is essentially a windsock-shaped structure, or similar to you can say, appendage. There is a blind sac. It's about somewhere between 2 centimeters in size or width-wise, and the depth is approximately 2 to 3 centimeters, to give an idea. And that sac or windsock structure has the highest propensity to form clot. So about 90% of the clots that form because of stagnation of the heart in the upper chambers of the heart form inside that appendage or the sac, and the clot can be really large because the blood is not constantly moving, and that clot then at some point could break off, travel along the blood flow from the atria to ventricles, and then can travel to brain, cause a huge stroke. So this is the one of the most dire complication of atrial fibrillation leading to a major stroke.
You did a great job explaining the symptoms of AFib. What are the signs and symptoms of stroke?
So the obviously depends where the clot travels, which part of the brain. As you can see, the brain controls the entire body from speech to movements in the entire body. So depending where that clot travels, and it can travel anywhere, but the common places it can travel to can lead to a stroke that have symptoms similar to symptoms like unable to speak, so loss of speech, hemiparesis, which is part of half of the body is not able to move, loss of function in any part of the body, could be the arm or the hand, a lot of loss of feelings or sensation in the body, or in the half of the body or in the part of the body. All are the symptoms of stroke. So lack of speech, sensation, lack of unable to move a part of the body, all fall into stroke.
All right, I'm going to be guilty. I'm going to be nominated for Captain Obvious, but I want to bring this up, that if you, all of a sudden, you can't count, you can't speak, something is really bad, the earliest
Absolutely.
intervention is essential, correct?
Absolutely. So, there's a lot of awareness, and your listeners are fortunate that you are always, as always, ahead of everybody else to educate everybody that awareness is key for everything. Understanding health in general, and then health diseases, AFib, stroke, is crucial to understand to help yourself, also help your family and friends. So if somebody is unable to count, is looking different than the usual state of a normal being, that means there's something not right. That could be stroke. And this is where you kind of pull the trigger, alert the health first responders so that that patient can be treated in timely fashion. Keep in mind, as you eloquently said, you're unable to count, you're unable to speak. That is a very common symptom of stroke.
Thank you so much for that. That can save lives for people listening right now, and that's what the program is all about. The topic this half hour on Deborah Heart and Lung Center Presents, the great Dr. Raza, is understanding AFib and stroke. The month of May is National Stroke Awareness Month, so we're doing, honor to that with today's topic and this great doctor, Dr. Raza. Are strokes caused by AFib, Dr. Raza, the strokes caused by AFib, the complications that come from that, are they more severe than strokes with other underlying causes?
Yes. The simple answer is yes. The strokes in general could be because of the, clots forming in the blood vessels supplying blood to the brain. That's a very common cause, and also the atrial fibrillation. The difference is when a clot forms in the upper chamber of the heart, in the left atrium, and I described the size of the appendage, that clot can continue to grow. It doesn't have to break off and go right away. It can continue to grow to a larger size, and then when that clot travels, it can block a major blood vessel, so hence causing a more significant loss of function or a bigger stroke, loss of function of the bigger part of the brain, versus other stroke, we should never say any stroke is actually non-significant or a smaller stroke in general, because any stroke could be devastating. But some strokes could be relatively less disabling compared to stroke from atrial fibrillation. So this is why it's so important to understand atrial fibrillation and prevent a stroke from atrial fibrillation, because this could be the most dangerous stroke somebody could have.
To schedule an appointment, you can call 609-621-2080 or go to the website demanddeborah.org. We now know, because you do such a great job in communicating important and potentially life-saving information, we know what atrial fibrillation is. We know what types there are. We know the risk factors now. We know the symptoms. We know how you diagnose it. All of this. What are the treatments for AFib?
So there are two components of treatment of atrial fibrillation. One is that we control the rhythm by controlling the rate, which is rate control strategy, we call it, which means that, when the upper chambers of the heart are beating so fast, they are conducting down to the bottom chamber, so the pulse rate could be somewhere from 100 to 200, and that's very abnormal, and patients will feel it. So we want to slow the pulse down to close to normal, which is 70 to 80. So one strategy is to use medications to slow the heart rate, and that will improve symptoms. And that is called rate control strategy. The second is a rhythm control strategy, which means we try to get rid of atrial fibrillation and bring a patient back to the usual rhythm. And there are several ways to do that. There are medications that can do it, and there are certain procedures that are performed to restore normal sinus rhythm or get rid of atrial fibrillation. So it depends on multiple factors. Some patients are eligible or candidates for rhythm control strategy, which means ablate the atrial fibrillation, get back to sinus rhythm. And in some patients, the strategy is just to lower the pulse rate enough the patient can function normally. So that's one component of the treatment of atrial fibrillation. The second component is to prevent stroke, which we just discussed why stroke happens in atrial fibrillation. Also the stroke, as you mentioned, are more dangerous from atrial fibrillation. So how to prevent a stroke from atrial fibrillation? As I mentioned earlier, the blood stagnates in the upper chamber of the heart, in particular the appendage we discussed. And to prevent clot formation, we need to thin the blood. There are medications that can thin the blood and prevent clot formation in that appendage. However, those medications thin the blood in the entire body because blood is flowing in the entire body, so they thin the blood everywhere, and that thin blood then is at risk to cause bleeding. So essentially, if somebody falls, there could be bleeding in the head, there could be bleeding from the gastrointestinal tract, or there could be a lot of bruising. So those are the common side effects of the blood thinners. There are two kinds of blood thinners. One is traditional, which is warfarin, and then there are other newer agents which we can use. Essentially, the goal is to thin the blood so blood does not clot in that appendage to prevent stroke.
Wild card question. You covered everything on our agenda. We're at the end of the program. Just a wild card question. Exercise and AFib. What are your thoughts about that?
Exercise, AFib, there's no data we know that decreases the risk of atrial fibrillation with exercise. But in general, as I mentioned earlier, by doing exercise, you control your blood pressure, you control your weight, and the sleep apnea is less. And indirectly, that will decrease the risk of atrial fibrillation. But I just want to take a second to mention that as we mentioned about the stroke and prevention of stroke with blood thinners, we have devices instead of blood thinners that we place inside the appendage to close off the appendage by those devices. There are two approved in this country, and they're done in outpatient basis. Essentially, patient comes in the morning, we go in, we place the device inside the appendage. The device looks very similar to an umbrella. You place, and it's almost like covering a pothole. You cover the appendage so then no clot can go in and out. And then patient could be on blood thinner short period of time, 2 to 3 months, and the rest of their life they don't have to be on blood thinners. And that procedure called left atrial appendage occlusion or closure is crucial in patients who are high risk for bleeding from the blood thinners. As I mentioned, blood thinners do cause risk of bleeding. A life-changing option that's available. Dr. Raza, I love doing the program with you. This is terrific. To schedule an appointment at Deborah Heart and Lung Center, you can call 609-621-2080 or digitally go to the website demanddeborah.org. Dr. Raza, thank you for a wonderful visit. Great to be with you. Thank you, Hattie. Always an honor. Take care. Bye-bye. My honor. Thank you, sir. We'll be right back. John Zarek continues with us next. Don't go away.
People all over the Jersey Shore have found the easiest way to stay connected to South Jersey's talk station. It's the WPG Talk Radio app. Read free, unlimited South Jersey news. Listen to your favorite talk shows. Send us breaking news tips and more. The WPG Talk Radio app is powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. SmokersHavenNJ.com. Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's the topics that matter to me.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back 42 minutes past the hour. John Zarek continues, bonus edition of Smart Law with John Zarek. John, I was telling you my frustration with Judge Juan Merchan. I believe he is corrupt. And if he's not corrupt, he's one of the most incompetent judges that I've ever encountered. the things he is allowed to happen, witnesses that he allows, doesn't allow the Access Hollywood tape in, but allows it to be read word for word, and all this stuff. You know this term better than I do, but when something is not of probative value, but in fact more is like a detriment in an unfair way to the defendant, it's never permitted. Like Stormy Daniels, if the charge is that Trump paid and affected the 2016 election, I'm not even buying the premise. They didn't even tell the president the charge until it was underway. Only gave him 10 preemptory challenges. I mean, I could go on and on and on, John. It's been disgraceful. How do you let somebody get up there and start talking about condoms and silky pajamas and all this stuff? This is never allowed to happen.
Yeah, it's not relevant to the case. I mean, the question
not at all.
The question is, was somebody paid off?
But even that's not
admitted.
A crime.
That's admitted.
It's not even
that
a crime.
It was paid off.
It's an NDA.
Yeah.
I signed an NDA with Trump.
And where'd the money come from?
That wasn't a crime either.
Sure. And where'd the money come from?
And his controller said that it was a legal expense and that Trump didn't even know about it. The case is really over. Now, of course, Mershon was not going to grant a mistrial because he's I think, a Democrat that's on orders. His daughter is a Democrat operative. He's a Joe Biden contributor. Colangelo had like the top position in the Department of Justice. Who leaves to come down to this level? Who does that? And the other attorney is a contributor. I mean, this thing is ridiculous.
Yeah. It's a hit. It's a political hit.
It is a political hit.
Is what it is.
And here's what they know, John. They know that at the bare minimum, they lock Trump down every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday for what looks like it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks, not 4 to 6, because it's already the fourth week. Tomorrow, 4 weeks is up. And the prosecution says they need 2 more weeks. That's 6 before the defense even puts a case on. By the way, if no crime was proven by the end of the prosecution's trial, would you rest or would you put a defense case on?
Well, I mean, it's very difficult not to put a defense case on in this situation, you know.
Because what they've done.
Because, you know, the deck is stacked. So, you know.
Is somebody going to effectively say, by the way, you've been here for 4 weeks and not a single crime has been introduced? This is wild what's going on.
Right. Well, the judge, they will make a motion for the judge to throw out the case.
Which he won't do. You realize, as of Stormy Daniels' testimony, if Michael Cohen does not present a crime, and he obviously is of dubious nature, if he doesn't present a crime, there's no crime for the jury to consider.
Sure. So, I mean, all those decisions will have to await the close of the case and, you know, what the potential is for putting on a defense. But, you know, you have to understand, too, and this is President Trump's decision, really not anyone else's. It may be legally appropriate for him to testify.
I wouldn't testify if I was him.
If he does, then everything he says is going to be used against him, not only in court, but used against him on the campaign trail.
Let me add one more thing. Judge Mershon has already confirmed, this is so blatantly corrupt, he's already confirmed that if President Trump testifies, he's going to allow more unrelated stuff to be brought in.
Yeah,
who does that?
It's a sad time. It's a sad time for the country because it's a time that's never occurred before that I know of.
It has.
Well, it has occurred before. It occurred in the South during the Civil War, or leading up to the Civil War. Lincoln's name, this is in 1860. Lincoln's name was not on the ballot in many southern states.
True, but he was never brought into a courtroom and charged with felonies.
Right. But never, not even on the ballot.
That's true. They'd left him off the ballot.
Yeah,
he couldn't be considered for president. He was the Republican nominee for president, and they would not allow him on the ballot.
It was a hit. It was a political hit.
Yeah,
you know, it was using political power to deny the people an opportunity to choose their president. That's
really there's a lot going on right now, and it's hard for people to keep up with it all. Judge Cannon has now stopped Jack Smith in his tracks. That case is indefinitely postponed. That's not going to happen before November 5th. You have the Georgia case is an absolute mess, and the appeal was granted, so the upper court in Georgia is going to hear that case about whether Fani Willis can even stay on the case or if that entire office can stay on that case. And if, in fact, they say she can't, that may just go away.
Yeah. And this is based, what they're doing to the President Trump is, it's not based on law. It's based on personal hatred of President Trump. That's really what it is.
Right, because a guy...
They hate him, and they justify doing anything to get him.
Including bringing up misdemeanors that the statute of limitations long expired, but bootstrapping a so-called felony, which he's not even allowed to do at his level. Now, you're usually, John, you explained this. You worked for the federal government at one point during your career. The Department of Justice should have stepped in. I've heard smart people talk on this topic, so this is me being educated on the topic. It's not my opinion. It's what I've heard smart people say on this. The DOJ should have went to Bragg and said, knock it off. This is not even a case you can bring forward. But they're in on it, so we're not getting that, John.
Yeah, you have Merrick Garland, and, he is...
He's scorned from not getting on the Supreme Court, and this is revenge time for him.
Sure. And he'll do anything to get Trump. There's no question about it. And, he's not even covering it up very well.
Can a guy like Mershon, who has allowed all these, what I believe are complete irregularities, improprieties, can he be criminally charged someday? Like Naifang?
He could be charged if they have a recording of him and Merrick Garland saying, look, there's no case here, but we're going to put it on anyway.
Well, what about
he's knock him off?
What about he's a financial?
If you have the evidence, you can prosecute.
Well, let me
someone.
throw some evidence at you, Counselor.
Yeah,
he's a judge who's a financial contributor to Joe Biden. He's a judge whose daughter is a financial bundler and Trump hater and well documented on social media. So
that's an appearance of impropriety. He should withdraw from the case.
Right. He was required actually by New York laws. What I'm trying to say. He had a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
From what I just said, and it's in his rules that he has a conflict of interest. But see, they picked him to be on this case. This was another thing that was done. They didn't, spin the wheel. They used to spin a thing, then they would do it by computer. When you hear, hey, this Circuit Court of Appeals, this 3-panel judge just got randomly picked. They handpicked this guy.
Yeah.
This is crazy. What's going on?
Yeah, because they knew he would
do exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, hurt Trump no matter what.
At every turn.
Whether there was a conflict or not, he was going to charge ahead.
I have to say, and I think I said this to you off air, so I want to say it on air now. I thought one of the most despicable things I've ever seen a judge do is to tell attorneys, don't object too much. We want the jury to get to see a picture of what's being talked about. And if you object too much, then it's just stopping all the time and they're not going to get what they need. Then when he let all that salacious, completely non-probative garbage from Stormy Daniels come in, he then said he blamed the defense attorneys for not objecting enough. He put that on the record, John, and then he said, and I let things come in that shouldn't have come in.
They objected. He just determined that it wasn't enough.
Correct.
Or wasn't often enough.
Correct.
Or whatever. So.
And they were taking the position if they object too much, it looks like they have something to hide, but they don't want to let this thing get out of control. They were put in an untenable situation because the judge didn't do his job.
Yeah. I'll say one thing. One person who's becoming sort of a star in this situation, Alina Habba, his attorney,
she also gets vilified too, which tells you she's effective.
Yeah, she definitely is ready for prime time. She definitely can run with the the big horses.
With the big dogs. Here's what I say about Alina Abba, though. I don't like her as a trial attorney, but I love her as an attorney in the media. There's a difference.
Yeah.
You know, Trump, some of these attorneys, like the ones he has in Georgia, I forget the guy's name. My brother Don's in like with him because he's just over the moon, fantastic and competent. They're crushing these people in Georgia, John.
Yeah.
They are crushing them.
That's why you don't hear anything about it in the news.
Final break. We'll be right back,
they're
uninterrupted.
They're getting killed. They want to forget about this
there's no question. That's why I think that judge who used to be a subservient, he was an employee of Fannie Willis, crafted that garbage decision. Well, you know, if you get rid of Wade, you can stay. If not, you got to go too. Was ridiculous. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's well-balanced conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville. A Town Square media station.
The global elites are waging a war on our financial freedom. They want to control our future through digital currencies and a cashless society. By eliminating cash, they can track every transaction, impose negative interest rates, and even freeze accounts at will. But patriots are fighting back by investing in physical gold. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon here. I believe gold is the answer. It safeguards your wealth better than any other asset. And even better, with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group, you can move your retirement savings into tangible real gold without paying taxes or penalties. Rolling over your existing IRA or 401k into physical gold could be the smartest financial move you ever make. To learn more, get your free info kit from Birch Gold by going to birchgold.com/protect. That's birchgold.com/protect. Take a stand for your financial future. Go to birchgold.com/protect right now to receive your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold Group.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
I listen every morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
We're back. Oh, the show behind the show. That would have been fun if everything that just took place during that 4 minutes would have been on air. John, you can tell I am really jazzed up about this, and there's a reason. Clearly, I support Trump, but I also, everything that I've done for 32 years on air, this July 1st will be 32 years, is predicated upon fairness. I don't like inherent unfairness, and this is terrible what has gone on.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for the left-wing Democrats. It's
nobody would have been charged with this.
No. Never.
I mean, the Department of Justice reviewed it, no charges. The Federal Election Commission reviewed it, no charges. How does this slob prosecutor get away with doing this?
Very, very low standards, very low personal standards, willing to do anything and justify it to himself.
Do you know New York right now is entertaining changing the law in New York because they're so incensed with the Weinstein verdict, and they think that it applies to Trump with what has gone on by letting this salacious, unrelated, stuff that had no probative value, infect the jury. There's no way to fix that.
It precisely tracks Trump's case.
Yes.
It's right on point.
Right. So they want to change the law, just like they changed the law so the E. Jean Carroll case could be brought forward. They want to change the law that you can bring in things that aren't probative.
Sure. I mean, you can bring in other crimes or other bad acts that will show a trademark or show a modus operandi or something. For example, in a sexual assault case, there's testimony that he's the guy that did it. The defendant A did it. And did he do anything else before he assaulted you? He said, yes, now I'm going to give you the mark of the magnificent. And he bit the person's shoulder.
Well, let me give you something.
He bit the shoulder. And then they bring in 3 other women who said, you were sexually assaulted by this person. Did he say anything different? And he said, now I'm going to give you the mark of the magnificent, and bit him on the shoulder. So it shows
like a pattern.
MO of this defendant.
Well, explain this to me. And Margie was on the jury, and she was very appropriate. We never talked about the case. Way after the fact, I learned certain things. So there's a guy, and he had previously sexually assaulted a child or children.
Mm-hmm.
He is charged again, years later, with sexually assaulting a child. Judge Winkelstein, who's one of my favorite of all time, does not permit any of the previous
Vietnam vet,
the best. He's the best we've ever had. I love him. He didn't let any, and he was right. He didn't let any of the other stuff come in. So that jury made a decision. The guy was found guilty, by the way. But wouldn't you think it would be great to know the guy? He's accused of doing it with this boy, and he did it before. That was not allowed to be brought in because it would be, even in such a heinous type of situation, it was considered that it was something that was prejudicial.
Well, every bit of evidence against a defendant is prejudicial. Everything that indicates that he did something wrong at any time is prejudicial.
But bringing a prior conviction
does the probative value of it, does the value in terms of proof outweigh the prejudicial effect?
Well, all I can tell you is...
And that's a judge's call.
I got you. And the judge made the call, and I think he made the right call, even though it hurts the heart, to say this, that I'm not going to let that in. You're going to base, this will be this case and prove this case. But Trump's silky drawers and condoms and all this insanity was able to come in.
Yeah, extreme prejudice, and
and that's what they found with Weinstein.
They wanted to do it because they wanted to. The judge wanted to let it in, I'm sure, and the prosecutor wanted to get it in because they wanted to show salacious stuff.
Yeah, they want Trump to look like a sexual monster. And
it's often.
How about that? She got to say, and this was never charged. This doesn't exist. She got to say that he raped her. How about that? Then she also got to say, and one time I was walking out, I think she said she was at a fitness club or something. I was walking out to my car, and somebody came to me and threatened me, and she implied to the jury that was Trump.
Yeah.
And this all was allowed.
I think that allegation, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't see this testimony, but that allegation was Cohen, I believe, who threatened her.
She wasn't clear about it. She didn't, not in this trial, she didn't blame Cohen.
Yeah.
It all was to make it look like it's Trump. Because even if Cohen did it, it would be for Trump.
She did in the past.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And even if she did here, it would still be that Cohen did it for Trump, that it was Trump. So all this stuff, like if you're a juror, I think if you're a smart juror, you're saying, what the hell does this have to do if he approved a financial expenditure that impacted the 2016 election and he wanted to hush somebody, which, by the way, here's the other irony. The attorney that testified, one of the prosecution's witnesses, said this is not a hush money trial. And yet that's all they call it, hush money. Hush money. But the attorney said it's not a hush. The prosecution said it's not hush money. If you're a juror, I think you could honestly be very confused as to what is salacious and what is a crime.
Sure.
And I think that's what they want.
As I've said a couple times on the show over the years, young prosecutors get very excited about salacious facts. And if in the course of a prosecution they come over on something where the defendant did some outrageous act, not relevant to the case, but just outrageous and not admissible.
Do you think they should be able to, and that they were able to and they have, do you think they should have been able to admit 500-page books from 35 years ago, 30 and 35 years ago, and it's part of this case now?
Of course not.
And it's in.
Of course not.
Final minute.
Yeah.
Closing comment.
This is what's going on, and everyone should understand it. Democrats, Republicans. This is an attack on our Constitution.
It is.
It's an attack on our Constitution. It's never been done before, and the Democrats hate Trump so much that the left-wing Democrats hate them so much, they're willing to destroy the country or permanently impair the country, destroy the efficacy of the Constitution in order to get Trump. That's what they're doing. And in the Senate, for example...
10 seconds.
In the Senate, there was an impeachment of Mayorkas.
Yeah.
And without basis, the Constitution says there'll be a trial. They said we're not going to have a trial.
I know. They're lawless. It's Deadwood.
Yeah.
John, thanks. Great to be with you, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
See you next time. Brian Kilmeade.